Welcome everybody to episode Ocean's 11 of Real Time. With me as always is the Frank Sinatra to my Dean Martin, Robbie.
Oh, I'm glad you went with a classic. I was wondering if you were going to do the Clooney Pitt thing.
Exactly.
But no, you went with the original. Nice.
See, I thought of that initially, but I thought, hang on, I could catch you out here.
Yeah, that was nice. You didn't catch me out, but I'm impressed. I'm more impressed by that more than anything else.
You're welcome.
It's very, very good.
We've got a lot to talk about on today's episode.
I can't believe how much has happened. I started going back through this list, and I'm like, we won't spend too much on. I think a lot of it's combined into a lot of things.
Yeah.
So it looks like a lot, which it still is, but there's a lot more on our list, and I think it actually is because there are bits of one thing like Disney.
Yeah, things have just come and gone that relate to other things.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
So we'll start off with, you've got a Gemini Man story.
All right, so
high frame rate.
If people have been listening previously, I've talked about the fact that I went to see Gemini Man, and I asked them what was the frame rate that I saw it at. Like before I even went and saw the movie, the people didn't know. I sent an email. I got an email back saying, "Did this answer your question?" Which they hadn't even sent me an answer. So when I went in to see something else, I can't even remember what I went and saw now. I went and saw something else it might have been, it wasn't Zombieland, I can't remember what it was. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I went and saw something, and I just happened to be at the counter, and I said, "Hey, random question here, but I went and saw Gemini Man here a few weeks ago, and I wanted to know what high frame rate is." And the woman was just like, "Oh, I don't know, I have to ask the manager." And then she goes away, and she comes back, and she goes, "Oh, so what it is they screen it in a high frame rate." And I'm like, "Yeah, and what was the frame rate?" "Oh, I thought you were meaning what HFR was." And I'm like, no, I know what HFR is, but what was the actual rate? Because I was just like, are they screening at 48, or is it 90, or 96, or was it 120? And she goes, "Oh, I don't know, I go ask the manager." She goes off again, and then she comes back and she goes, "Oh, it was 48."
Oh wow!
So there you go. I finally got an answer. So the screening I saw was double standard rate. And it was still pretty impressive. So I'd be very curious now, though, to see it in 120 frames.
Yeah.
I really would. It would be a very interesting experience, I think.
See, you should reply to your email you got back now and go, "I still didn't get a response to this. However, I did go to the cinema." So that they answered my question for me. So your response didn't help at all.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah. I was just lucky. But anyway. So yeah, what I saw was close to The Hobbit, which I'd already seen. So, but as I said, it was more suitable than The Hobbit. Anyway. Yeah.
At least you got an answer.
That was it. I thought it would be a nice little update at the start of this episode.
Yeah. Now, Disney Plus recently launched this week for New Zealand, Australia, and several other countries.
America, Canada, but not like places like the UK, which is huge. And so there's a lot of very upset people about this, but we'll come back to that later. Yeah, but a huge amount of Disney expected like 6 million subs in the first day, and they ended up with like 10 million.
Yeah, they got more than they expected.
Which kind of led to some woes.
Yeah,
there was connection issues, all this stuff. But I mean, people have to. I think people were pretty reasonable. I didn't see a hell of a lot of complaining. People were just like, "Oh, well, I'm trying to connect." And even this week when the Mandalorian episode launched, people were having disconnects on certain apps and stuff. It's just because of this intense load all at once for one thing. Obviously, there's only a certain limited connection run you can do. And they've obviously got massive server farms for this thing. But
and you've sort of got to take it with a grain of salt sometimes, is that, especially with the Mandalorian episodes dropping weekly at the moment, you've got to understand that there's going to be a lot of people that are just watching it for The Mandalorian, but also people who are just watching Disney Plus in general for all the stuff at the Vault.
Yeah.
And, those two things could potentially clash. But if you do have issues, you've sort of got to understand, there's...
Especially in the first day or two, because you just know that everyone's going on. Just to even look at what content's on there, just browsing through the app on the content is enough, that you're loading. And that was what people couldn't even access as well. So, yeah, I don't know. There, in the scheme of things, it wasn't really a big deal. And here, because we had a week-long delay before it finally launched here, they pretty much ironed out most of the big issues, I think. Yeah. But there was other bigger problems that people had. So I'll let you talk about the first thing, because this is more relevant to you. Although I have watched these clips as I did the other day.
So we've seen them and we've talked about them, but Lucas, I think before he handed over the reins back to Disney, he wanted to make like small, minute changes to Star Wars.
Again,
for like the millionth time or whatever.
And this is for the idea, because they've been remastering them in 4K,
Yeah.
knowing that this would eventually happen. So he wanted to head basically. I don't know if he did it beforehand, but maybe it was an agreement that he could do it sometime in the following few years. It was a requirement of the sale, and so I don't know if he did it beforehand or he did it but it's sometime before they've re-released it. Anyway.
Yeah, at least before they were put on Plus.
Yeah, or previously maybe it was the idea that they would re-release them on 4K formats, in general, not just on streaming, but maybe discs and all this sort of stuff. But he gets another crack at it again.
Yeah, and like for changing them for the millionth time, he's also changed the Han Greedo shootout for the 100th time or whatever.
God.
So it's like, instead of, I can't even remember what the original one is now.
Well, Han shot first. That's what the original was.
Yeah,
Let's just put that.
Yeah, so Han always shot first, and then I think he changed it to Greedo shooting first and Han shooting back in self-defense.
Yeah, with the weird head movement.
Yeah, with the head movement, because the 97 special editions. And then was it the Blu-ray came out and
they changed it again.
They changed it again to, was it slightly
I think
or something?
I think it was changed. I think it was changed for the DVD releases and then again for the Blu-ray. But I don't even know. I could be wrong. Remember. But it's so many times. And now again, obviously.
Yeah, so they've changed it again where they shoot at the same time. But now they've added in Mccartney by Greedo.
Mccartney.
Was it just before he dies, or is it just before he gets shot?
It's just before he gets shot.
Yeah.
Well, it's before they shoot each other.
Yeah, well, sorry, yeah.
But Han now shoots kind of first, or at roughly the same time, but because of McClunky.
Yeah.
McClunky is a perfect word for how clunky it is.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. And there was a story come out where was it the guy who played Greedo didn't know of the change, but somebody else had told him. I think one of the other Star Wars actors told him, like not main cast, but like a background character told him.
But he didn't know. He didn't care about any of the stuff. It was weird anyway. I did see this. Yeah,
and it was just like, why is he changing again?
God,
it's just one of those things. Like, I guess it's kind of good and bad that George Lucas doesn't have his fingerprints on it anymore, because we'd be spared from all these changes.
Well,
but
you say this,
they could potentially still be changed.
And I'm going to bring this up. I haven't written this down, but because I was just talking with someone about this today. That there's rumours there was a disastrous test screening of the last Star Wars movie, and that George Lucas has been brought in to kind of for his opinion to see if there's anything they can. Regardless of whether this is true, like, if it is, don't bring Lucas in. You don't need to at this point. The point was you bought it off him. You do what you want to do for Star Wars. You don't need him to fix things. You just want he had his dash and he didn't want to do it anymore. That was the whole point of him selling it.
He's had his 6 goes.
I'm sure he didn't want to come back in anyway. So if that's true, but I don't think it is. I think this is a bunch of like Disney's not going to is worried about the release of Jojo Rabbit because it's so controversial. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think it's that sort of same. It's not someone. It's come from like a person on YouTube with not a great track record. So
no.
Yeah.
We'll move on to other things to do with Disney Plus. They've got all of the Simpsons on there. Is it?
No, 20 season 29 and the movie.
Yes,
29 seasons and a movie.
There you go. So they've got most of it. Now it's not in the best of aspect ratios, to put it nice.
From season 20 onwards, I think it's fine because that's when they went to HD. But the seasons before that, everything was 4:3 is displayed in 16:9 with cropping to the tops and bottoms.
Yeah.
So visual jokes are cut off quite often. Signs are cut off. Characters are missing, sometimes out of frame, or framing's wrong. So this caused a big backlash. Apparently this happened before, though. It happened when Fox put it on the digital platform they created, Simpsons World, with was it FXX?
I think so, yeah.
And so they ended up fixing it and allowing you to watch. In the end, they changed it so you could watch in either. You could watch it 4:3, pillow boxed, or 16:9 but cropped.
Yeah.
And so the idea, there's a lot of complaints, and Disney's already come out saying we're going to fix it by next year sometime. So
yeah, I think it was like February 2020. I think they were saying,
so
at least early
February, March.
It's still not a quick fix, but I suppose they've got other things on their plate at the moment.
It's always a re-ingesting correctly 19 seasons of Simpsons. It's not exactly an untimely process, as you personally know.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a while.
The other thing that's quite a bit of controversy is the fact they've put these cultural warnings on things that are cultural. I personally think it's a good idea, but there was a few articles, both internationally and even nationally. I saw something on the New Zealand Herald lambasting the fact that cultural warnings don't really explain context to kids. Because it is a lot of kids stuff, and I get
Yeah.
this. I get that part of it. Like, yeah, you're going to show Dumbo, like the original Dumbo, and there's a character called Jim Crow. What does that mean? Why is it a stereotype? Like, these are things that you kind of would have to explain to your child, but the simple answer is don't expect Disney Plus to do that for you. Be a parent.
Yeah.
Do it to your own child. If you want to control what your kids are watching and be a parent, then talk to your kids about it.
Yeah.
That's the point. That was the irony. I saw this woman in the Herald article, for example, complaining. She's like, that, this isn't good. Disney should be going a step further. They need to explain, because outdated cultural stereotypes could be this is an out of date kitchen.
Yeah.
Like it's a cultural stereotype of a kitchen. Like, and I was like, that's a weird example, but it is the example she gave. And I said, well, that's kind of truth. Yeah, there could be visual things that are outdated because they're of a different era. But if you're talking about something that is potentially racist, and she's like, it should say racism. Like it should literally, that should be the warning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not what it is. It's about explaining what that means. It's explaining what outdated cultural references means.
Yeah.
And being a parent.
Yeah, and you should be. I think in today's society, a lot of that gets left out with kids growing up and their parents. And like a lot of the stuff should be explained by the parents, and I feel as though it's not done often enough. Like even with simple things on TV these days, like a lot of jokes where kids will probably ask their parents, but the parents will skirt away from telling them.
They just tell them the truth. Like, don't be silly about it. Be honest. But this is the thing, though. Parents, I don't know, and this is not for you. I mean, I don't have kids. You don't have kids.
No.
But parents do get distracted and they don't think of everything, and I get that part too, so I don't expect everyone to go and explain everything. But then I do remember things like, we've talked about this before, when Watchmen came out, for example, and they had all the banners that looked like a superhero movie, and parents are taking the kids to see Watchmen. It's like ignoring the rating that's on the thing, and it's told you specifically what was in it in this case. So I don't think having a more accurate, outdated warning label is going to fix that problem.
No.
Like, some people don't even pay attention. Are the kids going to read the description? Probably not. Yeah. So again, that comes down to the parents explaining what is in this movie. Maybe not even just because of the warning, but just saying, hey, look, this movie came out in 1940.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. Yeah. I wasn't even alive then, like...
It's when, society was a lot different than it is now, and I don't want to say that back then these sort of things were socially accepted, but it was just the way of the world sort of back then. And as things progressed over the decades, you sort of look back and go, oh yeah, you know what, that was actually a bad thing.
And these things are relevant. I will guarantee, if you go, I know this is funny, but I will guarantee there's a bunch of like 90s kids Disney shows on that. I will bet you $5 easy that you could find an episode of any of those shows, like somewhere in the season, that has some sort of uncultural societal norm from 20 years ago that we just wouldn't accept now.
Yeah, for sure.
A joke, a statement about a gender or someone's position as a male or female. I will guarantee you there'll be lots of that stuff, because that's just what 80s and 90s sitcoms had. People made. There's jokes in Friends, for example, that people in this age could see as genderphobics, homophobic, these things. And this is a show that was, is widely renowned and has only been away off the ears for 15 years, 25-year-old show now from its first season. And I see those statements being made. Yeah. I mean, there's jokes in the first couple of seasons of Big Bang Theory that people are like now, 10 years on, it is, things can change quite rapidly, and I think that's what you need to be explaining to your kids.
Yeah, and especially too, like if your kid's going to keep nagging you about it, then maybe you should sit them down and actually explain it to them. But I suppose most kids these days, they'll probably ask their parents and then they'll forget about it like 20 minutes later, sort of thing.
It's not that important.
But yeah, like you should, if your kid does keep nagging you, or you're sitting there with your kid and you think they're old enough, you could probably explain it to them and it would be fine. You just need to be open and honest with them about it.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, and there's part of it too, the context of it. Like, your kid's not going to see potentially the cultural issues at, say, age 5 or 6 that you as a parent would see because of your knowledge. That it may be a kid that is older that might see or might not understand. You have to explain it to them. But that's the thing. Like, everyone grows up watching certain media. There was a thing just recently as well with I think it was Jamie Lee Curtis talking about how she was meeting with people for autographs and stuff, and that were with like a 5 or 6 year old kid, and they're like, "Oh, little Jimmy really liked you in Halloween," and she's like, And she's like, what? and she literally admitted, she's like, I felt like slapping these people. Like, I have a really specific thing.
her.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, why are you showing little Jimmy, like, Halloween? And scare the bejesus out of the kid, yeah, so I can kind of get that too. Like, we should move on from this. We could spend an hour talking about
at least a whole episode about this, but we won't. Now, the Disney Plus Marvel shows, so it's like was it Loki and WandaVision and Winter Soldier and Falcon, all those. So no, they're important to the future of the Marvel movies, with characters from the shows potentially going to appear in the future movies.
Well, no, it wasn't even potentially. Kevin Feige came out and said they will. This will be important. Okay. He goes, the thing is for the slate of the movies to work forwards with these shows being part of that universe, they will be inevitably characters that will move from TV to movies and movies to TV. Simple truth.
Yeah.
That to me is, well, simple and makes sense. Very going to make the next phase interesting, I think. Especially in any future ones. Because I think there is a certain group that go and watch the Marvel films and they have a very hardcore thing and they're definitely going to watch the shows. I think there's a second group that watch all the movies, but they don't
watch the
TV shows, or they don't really go out of their way. And there's a third group who just watch random ones.
Yeah.
And the random ones already as it is can kind of catch up a little bit of the movies, but now when you're adding like several TV shows into the mix, I think this is going to be very interesting.
And it's going to be a backstory to this sort of arc in the movie. It's going to be tricky as well.
It's going to make characterization in the films much more interesting, because there'll be certain movies where they don't need to introduce a character because the introductions already happen on TV, which is great, but then people at home have no idea who this person is, and so it has to be very finessed. I think Marvel's got a track record of doing this all right. Like, you look at how they introduced Spider-Man back in, and Black Panther's arrival in Civil War, and they have an ability to pull character arcs over multiple films, and so they've got experience with this, but it's a big scope.
Yeah.
So it's got a big ask, and it'd be very interesting to see where they go with it.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and do better on like how they had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., of how that was going to tie into the movies, but then the only thing that really tied in was, oh, hey, this movie's just come out. Let's throw an episode about tying it into cleaning up the mess or something.
Yeah, but it was weird.
It was a very loose tie-in.
And it was weird, too, because by that point, they'd already established that clearly they didn't connect. Despite
them being in the same universe.
The TVs were in the same universe as the movies, but the movies definitely were in the same universe as the TV. So that was became pointless, and it should be the same thing.
Because I think, was it the first season and a half, I think they at least referenced up until at least Ultron.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And then I think I haven't seen it for a few years, but I think the most later season referenced Thanos as well, from what I read online. But even then, it's like two completely different entities, and the TV show has just gone in its own thing and done its own thing.
The only show that managed to stay consistent was Agent Carter, and that was simply because it was so far removed from the timeline that once you got past the first Captain America and little bits that they had to do with Peggy later in her life, that they could easily... And even then, with the Endgame, I think about it now, it'll probably change things, really, in the scope of it.
Yeah, you could kind of get away with it, with that, and then,
But it'll
be interesting to see what happens.
It will be interesting. It's a big scope. The interesting for here is that all the Marvel films are available here except for Incredible Hulk and the Spider-Man films. And the Spider-Man films are not available because obviously Disney would have to pay Sony to put them on the platform. But overseas, because of right agreements, we've actually got Infinity War and Endgame, but in the States you can't watch Infinity War.
Yeah.
You only get Endgame. Which is weird.
That's weird.
So, and they don't have Ant-Man and the Wasp, but they do have Ant-Man because of the different agreements, and they have to wait for them to expire. Whereas here, because they don't have those agreements, I think every Marvel film except for the ones
Spider-Man's Incredible
Hulk, which are obviously Universal and Sony backed, are on there, which is crazy. But you'll never see them on there. Yeah. So if you're a Marvel completionist, you can't use Disney Plus to watch everything. You can watch Disney Plus to watch almost everything. Yeah, but not quite at all. Unless they pay them for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're probably not really missing much if you don't see the Incredible Hulk. I mean, it does tie in to some stories, but is it really a big thing?
It'll all depend what they do with the Hulk in the future, I think. Yeah. And if they bring Liv Tyler back, then it makes it even bigger than it previously was. But who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
And then Disney just needed to pay Sony.
Yeah,
an exorbitant amount of more money.
It could possibly happen. They could end up going, like, when they go to renegotiate rights again further down the track, they'll say, hey, like, we'll give you a little bit more profit share on our future films if you allow us to put the Spider-Man film, say, for example, up on our Disney Plus platform instead of elsewhere. They might go, yeah, cool, because it means they get an extra few million from each movie or whatever, and they'll go, yeah, it's fine in the end. I mean, it'll come down to something like that probably in the end, I guarantee it. But it's not the only thing that is potentially a drama filled, I think, for Disney Plus, which I'll let you continue in talking about other things.
Yeah, so the Star Wars films are going on hiatus after Rise of Skywalker, which is probably a good thing because we've had 5 movies over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, it was a case where oh my god, I've forgotten. Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, actually came out and said, yeah, I think we rushed it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, the prequels, they came out, every 3 years, similar to the originals?
It was
they came out every 3 years.
99, it was a bit longer. 99...
02 and 05.
Yeah, so it was about 3. It was just on 3 years or so.
Yeah, so it was similar timeline to the original trilogy, whereas these, I think, were definitely rushed.
Yeah,
and
because
I think it's kind of pleased some people, but kind of not at the same time.
For a while, we've had an alternating, like, with the exception of Solo, because they got pushed back, but it was supposed to be every Christmas.
Yeah, every Christmas, yeah.
But they're still doing this. It's still going to be every 2 years. This is the thing I was confused about. So I've written this down just to remind myself. Previously, that was going to be December 2022, 24, and 26, with an alternating between an Avatar film each other year.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been any commitment to this changing. And then, after I'd seen this, I guess said, yes, we rushed it to us, but the next film will be 2022 December. So that, as far as I'm aware, that still stands. So we're still seeing them going at every 2 years. And so I'm thinking, well, have you learnt your lesson? Like, it's all going good to say, yeah, okay, the next one is still going to be 2022, but are you going to push that back to 3 years?
Yeah.
Or 4 years? Or just a one-off? Because I think still at 2 years, that's still a lot of Star Wars, especially when you've got Disney Plus taking off. And we've obviously seen the success of Mandalorian already. And obviously there's good buzz about the idea of doing the Obi-Wan series as well, especially considering one of the director on the most recent Mandalorian episode is going to be directing most of those.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting. The other big controversy part of it, well, not controversy, depending on who you're talking to, is that Kathleen Kennedy is only contracted to be in charge of Lucasfilm until the end of 2021.
Yeah.
And
she's got a couple of years left in her.
She's got a couple left. And she was appointed before the Disney merger. Yeah. She was specifically appointed by George Lucas as part of the transition. And there's some, obviously, rumours that Jon Favreau, for example, would be a good replacement considering how successful he's been with multiple franchises for Disney. And you can see the logic behind that. Lion King's been very successful, even if you don't like it.
Iron
Man, obviously, and his work in the Marvel franchises, and his work now on The Mandalorian, and even stuff like Jungle Book. Not massive success on the scale of Disney films, but was still very well received critically. So he's not done them bad. Like, Iron Man 2 is like his worst thing, and it's still not that bad. Like, it's not a great Marvel film in the scheme of Marvel films, but on an average movie film, it's pretty good. That's fine. So it'll be very interesting. I think someone did say, as multiple people said, and I think actors have said it and directors, if you release too much in a very short time, you take away the charm and magic of what makes it special. And it's very interesting to see the sort of rise of the first movie when everyone was very hyped about Star Wars coming. Because
at that stage it had been 12 years since
the
last one had come out.
It's I'm very interested to see if it's a law of diminishing returns on this, or if because everyone knows it's the last of the Skywalker saga, it has like a bounce back effect. I have no idea.
And one thing I want to know is that if that's when the new dates for the Star Wars movies are going to come out and they're going to alternate between Avatars, is that going to be too soon for Avatar movies as well? Because that was still a big movie when it came out in 2009. And then when we're going to have more with alternating Star Wars years, is that going to be too many too soon as well?
Well, the opposite applies to Avatar, is that a lot of people are like, do people even care about Avatar after this number of years? It's not the forgotten blockbuster, because as you established when you were at film school, lots of people coming through that were quite young were like, Avatar was the thing. You know, that was the thing that got me interested in films. And that's like Star Wars or Jurassic Park or something, some big
It's a generational movie.
It is, but is there enough of that generational buzz to keep it alive? Like, was it more of a one-off, not a franchise, because it was a one movie? It wasn't like the original Star Wars. It wasn't like Jurassic Park. You know, they made Jurassic Park, then they made The Lost World like 3 years later. Again, 3 years seems to be a big magic number.
Yeah.
So you're right. Having Avatar films every 2 years, is that too much? But James Cameron's obviously committed to the idea of doing so many of them, but then he's also turned around and said, we'll see. We're definitely doing the next 2. More after that is dependent on how
they're received and whether we can be bothered.
Which is a gamble, because he's filming all of these, I'm pretty sure. Like, they're all, the whole
he's
sequential...
Like 4 or something?
4 of them, and they're all... I'm pretty sure they're filming most of them together. Obviously, there'll be pickups and some CG work to be done, ADR and all this stuff, but, like... Yeah, it's weird.
It's a big gamble.
It is a big gamble. I wanted to do one last thing about the Disney Plus service beforehand, which is to talk about the Disney Vault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if people don't know what the Disney Vault is, Disney has this idea, for right or wrong, depending on what your opinion is, that whenever they release a series of films to a format, they do it for a limited run or a limited time. So they were doing this on VHS, they did this on DVD, they did this on Blu-ray, where you get a certain release of films and they only come out for either so many copies are printed or they come out for a limited amount of time. Now, this has had a knock-on effect in 2 different ways to do with Disney Plus, which is that Disney Plus has an area where we talked about this, it's like out of the vault.
Yeah.
So they're always classic things. This implies the idea that at some point on Disney Plus, they're just going to start randomly throwing things back in the vault. So, you
can't access it again, and you're going to have to go back to your hard copy that you've bought.
Yeah, which is weird to me because it's an online service that not everyone's going to have at all times, right?
Yeah.
You might not have Disney Plus now, so in 6 months' time you might go, I'm going to get Disney Plus now. There's enough stuff on there, I want to see it. So then you do it. Then you go, I wanted to see The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, and they've taken it
off
for whatever reason.
Why? Why would you be a competitor to something like Netflix and then limit access to your content? But the interesting thing that's come out of this, there was an article about 2 months ago which had this knock-on effect of the Fox purchase, which is that up until Disney purchasing Fox was quite happy to send out film prints to various theatres around the United States, around the world, if they wanted to do stuff. So quite often, for example, when we've been to things like this, Alien Day, for example, they do a screening of Alien. Die Hard would quite often be Fight Club. Things that get re-screenings quite a lot. Theatres have been putting in pre-booked requests prior to the Disney purchase of these films, and Disney have been denying the films. They're saying, no, we don't sending out prints. They're basically making them more rare by putting them in the vault.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how this would work on a Disney Plus platform. I think it's a silly idea. Like, I know Disney's going to turn around and go, we've got so much content on there. If you don't want to watch you can't see The Little Mermaid now. It'll be on there in a year.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get this idea of like an artificial kind of marketplace for it, I guess. But yeah, it's a weird thing. And as you said, they've done it for formats over the years. They've done it, oh, you want The Lion King? Well, this is your chance to do it. And when the copies are sold, that's it. You don't get Lion King again. Yeah,
well, I'm wondering about it is that if stuff does go potentially back in the vault, whether they're going to make it an on-demand where you pay like an extra couple of dollars to watch that specific movie or something, just for like a couple of days or something, like 48 hours or something. But
it's a horrible way of doing it.
I know, but I'm just like, if they are potentially going to put stuff back in the vault,
what
could they do, and how long is it until it comes out again?
I completely agree with you. That's actually quite a likely possibility, but it is gross. It's a money-grubbing grossness.
Yeah, like, if they do it, it's
because
like,
you go, for a while it was free to everyone who paid for Plus, essentially free. They're paying for the service, which had everything on it, and now all of a sudden you put it behind an extra paywall.
Yeah.
You'd be going, get fucked, Disney.
Yeah.
Fuck this.
I'm going to go buy my hard copy from Trade Me or
eBay, or I'm going to find a copy online, or I will just pirate a copy. I'll find a digital copy someone's put online and I'll just pirate it. I'm not giving you $2.99 extra to watch The Lion King from 1994.
Yeah.
I'd rather not do that at all. I'm already paying you $10 a month for what it was on previously.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we're not even a full week in yet. Well, for us anyway, of Disney being out, so I suppose we'll wait and see.
But
if
given
stuff does go back in the vault.
It'd be interesting to see.
Maybe they'll just change the name of it.
Maybe it's just the implication that it is currently out of the vault forever because it's on Plus.
Yeah.
As long as you've got Plus subscription, you got it. They haven't made any comments, but given their practices elsewhere and this whole thing of taking all the Fox content, I mean, and this is one last thing I do want to say is that obviously Disney Plus is child friendly. That's the idea behind it, and so there is nothing more than I think a PG. There's maybe there's some M stuff maybe that are like light M's. So that includes like Fox stuff. So there's no platform where you'll be able to go watch Die Hard, for example, because they're Fox films and Disney put them behind a paywall, and unless they decide to put an adult service separate, which they might, you never know.
It's potential.
It's potential, but it would include all Fox, because I was saying Fight Club, Alien, Die Hard, these things. You won't be able to see it otherwise. So, be interested to see. Anyway,
it'd be like a Disney Plus or something for adult movies, I guess. Well, I say adult movies, that makes them sound like adult movies.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, for over the age of 12. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Stuff like Die Hard and Alien, etc.
We can spend again another entire hour, as you can hear both of us rambling on about how ridiculous all this is. But we should move adjacent. We'll move Disney adjacent to the rest of the Marvel stuff that's non-Disney Plus related. I'll let you carry on.
Yeah.
With this.
So Ant-Man has had its filming date revealed by Michael Douglas in a press conference for, was it one of his recent films? Or was it
it was another film, I think he was doing.
So it was January 2021, is it he confirmed.
Which they hadn't mentioned anything about it. There would be no confirmation whatsoever that there was going to be another Ant-Man film yet at all. Other than just expectations that it was probably going to happen because the last two were reasonably well said.
I think
the budget
open to assumption.
Yeah, the budget to success ratio is quite high in them because people go, they make middling amount for Marvel films, but the budget generally tends to have been somewhat lower, I think, than say you bigger tentpole ones. So I think for Disney it makes sense. But yeah, he just was like, we're filming in January 2021. No shit's given.
He just sort of lazily dropped it into the conversation. And I don't even think he was prompted that much.
No, I think he was just like, oh, what else are you going to be doing? Like, are you interested in coming back to doing Ant-Man? And he's just like, we're doing another Ant-Man. We're filming scheduled into January 21 filming. Like, that was it.
I suppose if you want to find out spoilers, just go ask Michael Douglas.
Exactly. He's just not going to... He doesn't care. He's like, they need me more than I need them.
Yeah.
It's probably pretty much how
pretty
it
accurate too, yeah.
Funny enough, though, there was a reveal of a bunch more Marvel dates. We'd already had May 6th for Black Panther... May 6th, 2022 for Black Panther. So they also included October 7th, 2022, which there was already 3 announced. There was February 18th with no movie attached, May 6th with Black Panther 2 attached, and July 29th. So that's 4 movies in 2022. And then 4 dates for 2023, February 17th, May 5th, July 28th, and November 3rd. So yeah, we're definitely going to the 4 movie a year thing.
Yeah. We've definitely evolved throughout the course of the Marvel films. We've gone, was it 2 initially, and then they got to 3, and now we got to 4.
And you got to think this is 4 plus all the TV series.
Yeah, they're kind of doing this per phase as well. They're like adding more movies per phase sort of thing. It's like the first phase was 1 movie a year, second movie was 2 a year, 3 a year.
Well, no, that's not entirely true, because I remember in the first phase, like for example, Thor and Captain America came out pretty close together.
Yeah.
But it was still like, that seemed like a big deal. But now we're at this point where we're just like, we can do 4 movies a year, we don't care. Like, the big ones are obviously around the summer, so the big ones are always like May, June, July, but obviously big doesn't mean anything because Black Panther was released at the start of the year, which would be like a February one. They moved it for May this time. But yeah, and even November's quite late in the year, but they was like, whatever, who cares? We're at a point now where the season of blockbusters doesn't exist anymore. No. We just have movies all year round pretty much.
Yeah, people will still go see it and it'll still make a buckload of money.
Yeah, I think that has to do with also your global market thing, because obviously they always looked upon it as like blockbuster season in the States because it was summer holidays there. Forgetting that obviously like in the Southern Hemisphere,
it's the winter and
we don't care. In China is a huge market and they don't care which time of the year it is, either. So it's just whatever they can get through the allowance of how many movies they're allowed to screen in China. And it can be they can be screened anytime because sometimes there's a delay on them. Like just because it comes out in May in America doesn't mean it didn't get to release in China until say July or August, because that's when the hot window was available for them. Yeah. So I think they've gotten past that point, and that's why they've just seen, we can, record month of October, record month of January, record month of December is something we've been seeing so much of.
Yeah, I think now it's just the blockbuster season is just blockbuster year, regardless. Like there's no definitive this date to this date. It's just all year round now.
This begs the question, though, and I'll ask you this. Do you think that there's a point where we get oversaturated? Like, is there a point where there's too many movies? And because I remember having this conversation with you. I'm going to go aside. In 2015, I was off overseas at the time, and I was just like, I remember there were so many big sequels. It's been another one of those years this year. So many huge sequels that they can't all survive. You just can't release 7 big different sequel movies and have all of them succeed. It just statistically is impossible.
Yeah.
The same idea applies to this. Like, you can't just have movies every month that are big event movies, because there are going to be something that crash and burn.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's one of those things where some directors will, that aren't associated to these superhero movies that are just making a ton of money, and then there'll be another movie which is probably critically well received, better than the superhero movies, but the general audiences probably won't go and see it, and they won't make enough money, which is probably a shame.
I personally think that's happened this year. Like, if you look at something like The Lion King, like, it made buttload of money, and I thought it was terrible. Most people generally thought it was inferior to the original, for the most part, it seems. And it made heaps. And that was the same. But then that's still a personal opinion, because I felt like that about Jurassic World, made a lot of money, and I was just like, whatever.
It's definitely one of those things, like, I think certain genres as well can oversaturate, because I think we've talked about this in a previous episode of, like, where do we draw the line at having too many superhero movies? Not just from Marvel, but from, like, DC as well, and elsewhere.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, we're just talking about 4 Marvel films here. That's not including anything DC releases. It's not including anything Sony decides to do with, like, their Venom or Spider-Verse or any of those. It doesn't have to do with any other superhero movies that come out of anywhere. It doesn't have to do with any other animated films that are superhero adjacent. That's just Marvel. 4 Marvel films is quite a lot. I think that's peak. That's going to be our peak Marvel. Like, I can't see them doing 5. You just physically could not fit them in enough.
Because at least those dates, at least there is like one every 3 months.
Yeah, on average, more or less.
Yeah. So there's no way they can start doing 5. That's just going to really throw people off. You're going to have You're going to have 2 movies in the cinemas at the same time, one ending and one starting. So there's going to be a crossover, but
we put it in this context. I'll skip ahead just one bit of news. So Sony announced that they're doing a Spider-Verse sequel, and that's coming out on April 8th of 2022. So that's the same year that you've got 4 Marvel films on February, May, July, and October. So you've got February, March for the first Marvel film. You've got April for Spider-Verse, which is like April-ish, but then Black Panther 2 is right on the back of that, within a month. Assuming that, so Spider-Verse is April 8th, Black Panther is May 6th, so less than a month. Then Black Panther gets through to July, and then July gets through to October, quite a long run, because it's the end of the summer season. But that is, again, no DC films, there could be something else. By 2022, so who knows? It's a mess, and I think there's a point at which we will see oversaturation. It will, and this is what everyone's been saying. I mean, Spielberg said this like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But it will become, the superhero film will turn into the Western. We will be oversaturated, and it will go out of favour. It's just a simple truth. It has taken way longer than anyone ever expected. I don't think anyone ever expected them to last this long. I think Marvel has a lot of credit to take about making sure that those films are all vaguely different, and a different style, different tone, which keeps them more fresh.
Yeah.
But even then, there's only so much
you can do. And I think that's where movies like Captain Marvel or even Guardians of the Galaxy fell in favour with a lot of people over the rest of the series, is that they did have their own spin on them and they felt different.
And Black Panther as well, same thing. I think that's definitely part of it, and I think that's what's kept them. And even outside of Marvel, like stuff like Logan, Spider-Verse, those are all examples of like doing something uniquely interesting and different that
within the same world,
within the same kind of concept, and keeping people engaged. And Joker as well. And we talk about Joker. Speaking of Joker, because skip one thing. We'll just briefly mention that on the last bit of Marvel news that Robert Downey Jr. has been outed by Jeff Goldblum.
Not that way.
Not that way.
Not outed that way.
To be joining the What If cast for
He's still single,
animated.
ladies.
No, he's not single.
He's not
married.
Oh,
Or is he single? And then he's in de facto kind of relationship with someone he's been with. It doesn't matter.
Carry on. Ignore what I said.
But Jeff Goldblum just like, I did some stuff with him and like explained what part of it was, because it had to do with his character. He's been part of it as well. So he's blatantly. I think they were trying to keep that quiet because he wasn't on the cast list. I think they were supposed to downplay that a little bit. And he's just went, no, it's a bit like, but it's Jeff Goldblum. Like he's got, it's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, they need me more than I need them.
I don't know. He really liked doing the stuff in
Grandmaster.
He said that several times. So, and obviously he's doing the stuff for Disney Plus with the world according to Jeff Goldblum. So I don't know. But it's not that surprising. Like honestly, of all the people that you really probably wanted to get back for a little surprise role in at least one episode, it would definitely be him.
Would be him. Yeah.
So, going back to Joker because I can actually talk about it.
That before, yeah.
Joker's had a run of news which included the fact that it became the most profitable comic book movie ever on a cost to profit ratio, and that was before it even hit 1 billion, which it did. And then I think it was the Hollywood Reporter came out prematurely and said, there's going to be a sequel. And then Todd Phillips, the director, was like, there's no contract. But of course, we've discussed the idea of a sequel the reaction we had at Cannes, and then the reaction again with the public reaction. Of course, we've thought about the ideas of it.
You'd think about it and you'd have like sort of closed door conversations, but it wouldn't be any contract.
Yeah, there's no contracts, and so he said it's all premature and it's not true. So I don't know, but am I surprised by the profitability thing? No. Am I surprised they got to $1 billion? Almost. Is more profitable than I think every DC movie now. I think.
Yeah, I'd say. I
think it is. I'm not. I was supposed to double check and I forgot. I think it's and it was still making money. It's definitely past $1 billion. I don't know. I think it was nice as a one-off. I don't think I would like to see a sequel. Would I like to see Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips do another comic book movie? Yes. A Joker sequel? Maybe not.
Yeah.
That's my take personally, but who knows? Everyone wants to see more, and the movie is so ambiguous in a lot of ways.
It sort of definitely leaves a lot to the imagination, and thought-provoking as well.
It gives you opportunities to do other things with it.
Yeah, it definitely would be one of those things where it's like, if there is enough demand and they come up with the right story and everyone agrees with it, then yeah, sure, they may come back for it, but I think you're pretty much right. It's like, I think it's fine as a one-off.
Yeah. No.
And unless you want to, start building a universe around this or something, like start your own sort of Batman angle again for like the umpteenth time.
Well, they're already doing that with Matt Reeves' Batman film, which is another movie that could come out in 2022.
Yeah, but yeah, I think as far as this goes, it's good as a one-off.
Yeah.
At least for now, until I guess there could potentially be hype for a second one, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Segueing.
Yep.
Speaking of one-offs. Justice League.
Yep.
Justice League wasn't technically a one-off because there's the Snyder Cut, which everyone continues to go on about, including Zack Snyder himself, including the people that have been fundraising campaign money to put up billboards and signs at near Comic-Con events and big events that Warner Brother executives might see. And then, of course, obviously, then all the casts and many crew members have all been jumping on the bandwagon, sharing bits of information, photos.
And small behind-the-scenes stuff,
and
which wasn't in the original movie.
It's grown so much that I honestly thought that the pressure had been put on enough that Warner Brothers would announce, because the movie was coming up to its second anniversary, it's just passed, they would actually announce that they were going to do something. But nope, nothing. It's come past, gone, nothing. No comments, no official statements. I'm very interested. It seems like, to me at this point, it seems pretty obvious putting it on at least a platform. Maybe not a physical release, but putting it on iTunes or,
something like that.
Apple Movies as it is now, and or on YouTube, as a paid movie. People would do it. There's enough people out there that, honestly, putting an unfinished work print that Snyder was brought in to just supervise to check that he's happy with, cost them probably minimal amount compared to how much money people were already willing to throw at this as a campaign to get them to release a movie that I personally feel probably will not be improved by this cut, but will be an interesting curiosity, just like the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 was. Interesting.
Yeah, we definitely got to wait and see if there's enough pressure on Warner Brothers to get that out. But I think.
Do you think it'll happen?
I'm kind of in both camps. Like, I still haven't seen it to this date, so.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Do you think you'd watch it? You'd have to watch. You have to watch the other version.
From what I've heard about that, like, I don't want to watch it anymore. So then, if the Snyder Cut does come out, it'll probably make me want to watch that one instead. But
but then you have to watch the first cut at least for comparison.
Yeah.
Honestly, Justice League isn't horrible. It's just some weird stuff in that movie. Like, I get that. you've sat through Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
I actually think that's the worst film of the two, to be honest. So if you sat through that, then you can probably easily sit through Justice League. Yeah. Like, that's me personally. But hey,
other DC news.
Yeah, there's two more bits of DC news. I'll just cover this really quick because I don't really want to get into this, but it is worth mentioning. So a bunch of Johnny Depp fans are trying to get Amber Heard fired from Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
Simple backstory, if people don't know this, is there's been an ongoing lawsuit comparison thing going on, which basically shots fired between the two of them as to who abused who did what to who didn't do what to who, and basically, so a bunch of people are like, well, clearly she's just a lying pain in the ass, so she doesn't deserve to be able to do movies, so therefore we should get her fired. The last I looked, the campaign hadn't gone anywhere, but it did make a lot of news, which isn't surprising because anything to do with this whole thing has made a lot of news. I don't really want to talk about it anymore, but I thought it was worth mentioning, just because it's interesting on a general, like, why do people think, and I want to put this in a bigger scope, why do fans think they have the entitlement, again, of making things change in movies just because they're not happy with other things? It's not even about the movie, it's about stuff outside of the movie. What does it matter?
Yeah, someone's personal life.
Yeah. It's different if there's an impact on the set, say, between an actor and an actress, if that was something physical on set.
Or an actor and a light guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, I get that. It's something that got out there, but that's very different than people's personal lives. That in this part is, and this is no, I'm not coming on here and saying Amber Heard's flawless in her whatever. Clearly there's a disagreement on both parties as to who's at fault, and that's the whole point. It's in a law system. Why is it up to the fans to decide outside of that Johnny Depp's better than Amber Heard or Amber Heard's better than Johnny Depp? I'd be saying the same thing if this was a bunch of Heard fans who were trying to get Johnny Depp fired off a movie.
There probably is, but they're just
probably
not
is.
That big a group that you don't hear about.
Well, there was a lot of people grumbling about him in Harry Potter, in the Fantastic Beasts film. So, in the same case. So, I'm not that surprised that it's happening, but again, I wouldn't say he should be removed from Fantastic Beasts because of this at this stage. No court decision has been made on who was at fault and anything like that. Maybe once the court decision has been made, then you can start going, right, maybe this person shouldn't be hired by companies anymore because of their behaviour. But it hasn't been proven by either side yet. So that's my personal take.
We'll see what happens with that. There was also Black Adam will release on December 22nd, 2021. It's a good Christmas movie for you. Come out that year. That's according to Dwayne Johnson.
And there was a poster.
And so it was just the one of him sort of flying in the sky.
Yeah, so it was a mashup. What's his name? The Australian guy that does a lot of the artwork. Him and someone else were commissioned to do the poster together. So it's really impressive. And it's just him flying or floating in the air. Basically. Yeah. Looks pretty good.
Yeah,
like the poster.
I'd actually seen a somewhat of a parody poster, just as a quick side note, of Dwayne Johnson sort of giving Shazam a rock bottom, which was like one of his old finishing moves.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, as a tease that they, could potentially fight, in either a Black Adam or in Shazam 2 or what have you. So I thought that was pretty funny as well.
But anyway, well, it's good news that it's finally going to a film be released. So it's only taken them 7 years, I think.
Yeah. I think they were waiting for Shazam reception first.
Well, I think that was it in the end. It was reasonably well received. The last bit of comic book... Well, that's not entirely true, because I was going to say the next one is also slightly comic book related. A couple here, but going back a little bit to Marvel, but more because I wanted to move this away from comics for a little bit. Taika Waititi's going to do his next film before Thor, which will be his next film, and it's called Next Goal Wins. It's based on it's one of those true event stories, based on mostly true events, but not entirely a true story.
Slightly fictionalized,
also heightened. But it'd be very interesting. It's about a soccer team, and there's a transgender player, and it's if you read the story behind it, it sounds like very quirky and very much the sort of thing that Taika would be attracted to. Like, it totally makes... You read the backing of that story, and it totally makes sense. So, I'll be very interested to see where it goes. The reaction to Jojo Rabbit, which I will come back to later, because I didn't see it, has been very interesting, and so I think this would be just as interesting response-wise. But I just wanted to mention it.
Yep.
The other thing that came out just earlier this week was The King's Man, which is also based loosely on the idea of the comics, of the Secret Service, has been delayed from February until September of 2020. Now, this is a Fox property, so therefore this is a Disney decision.
Yeah.
No reason was given. Usually delays mean either reshoots or problems with the film, but in this case, with the jumbling of things, you don't actually know what this means. It could be Disney just saying, hey, it's clashing with something else, or we're clearing a slate,
push
it back or move it forwards. There was a few other things that they moved at the same time, so it wasn't a run of things that all got shifted. The big issue, I guess, is a lot of times is when, especially these things, usually it's nerves or things, but it's not a massive... We've talked about it just before, like movies being released all year round now. February wasn't even a massive big month back in the past anyway. September was the end of summer, wasn't a big month either. Both now are just whatever. They're just whatever they're going to be. So we'll see. I don't know what. More will come out or nothing will happen and the movie will be fine.
Yeah, or, there might be a decision in the early new year to go, you'll release it June, July instead, We just don't know yet. No, there was the Bohemian Rhapsody producer wants to do a Bee Gees biopic.
Yes.
Which I find quite interesting. And to be... I was like, I wonder who you could get to play them. I was trying to rattle my mind of certain actors, but no one was really coming to mind.
I was even thinking about what you would name it, because I was like, straight off the thing that I would call it would be Staying Alive, but there's already a movie called Staying Alive, so what would you call it? Because that was the whole thing. Rocket Man was Rocket Man, obviously. Bohemian Rhapsody. So you were looking at things that you take...
That'd be sort of Bee Gees related
title to one of the songs, and I would think that Staying Alive is the most well-known. Of like the first song that most people think of when you hear that name is that song, but you can't because of the movie with
John Travolta one.
Has already taken it. So that was the other part that I was trying to think of what you would actually call it. There was also some more news though.
There was the news of that he wants to do a Michael Jackson.
Well, this one sounds like it's moving forward. Like this is the one that he's more likely to do next, and it's not. The idea is that it's not going to skirt any of the controversial stuff. So. Again, I can't see who you would cast in the role, especially on the idea that they've got to go from one colour to another colour.
Yeah.
That's a big ask.
Like, are you sort of going to have someone and then paint them blackface and then...
Yeah, and they go white, or are they black and then they paint them white?
Yeah, how are you going to do that?
Is it going to be done digitally?
Well, yeah, because
but still, like, that's...
I mean, because if you kind of look at it, like, the difference between Michael Jackson before and after, like, it does look like two different people. So yeah, I suppose in a way you could cast
two people. That's true. That's also, I didn't think about that.
I don't know. If that's going to be the case, you're going to have someone potentially do the voice, the speaking voice, and the singing voice, and they're probably going to have to potentially dub.
Oh, I don't see anyone singing. I don't see anyone singing these tracks. I think it'll have to be the originals.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody. I just don't. It's like Freddie Mercury's voice. I just think it's too unique.
Yeah.
As a voice, that would be very hard. I mean, there's some impersonators out there pretty good.
Yeah.
But to get the full range,
especially for singing,
I think it'd just be easier to do the Bohemian Rhapsody thing and just have as much as you can of the original. Vocals, I just think it's one of those things. It's not like the Rocket Man option where, Taron Egerton was really good.
Yeah, and Elton John wanted him to sing and make it his own. He didn't want him to do like an impression of Elton John.
Whereas in this case, you didn't have the actual artist for Bohemian Rhapsody, and obviously Michael Jackson biopic, the actual artist is no longer alive, so it's not that they're going to turn around and go, oh, I don't want to sing. Can you get someone else to sing?
Yeah. Can we get a singing sound-alike?
Yeah, exactly.
But, we'll see what happens with that.
Cool. Shall we move on?
Yep. There was the new Ghostbusters film, which we've talked about in multiple episodes previously. The rumoured title going around at the moment is Ghostbusters Afterlife,
which I think is quite clever. If it is, it's the idea, obviously, of a passing the torch thing. It's after the existence of the Ghostbusters as we knew it. So yeah, I could see that. It might just be a working title, but clever enough.
It kind of asks the question though, is because the original cast, we've talked about this too. The original cast is coming back. Is something potentially going to happen to them where they themselves become ghosts and that could tie into the title, or is it just because they're going to just the life of those Ghostbusters in general are passing the torch to these new younger ones?
I think personally it's probably more the latter, but also obviously has the impact of how Ramus no longer being with us, so therefore they have to acknowledge that. The Egon's not there, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. I was hoping that we'd hear something specific by now. There's been a push on Ghostbusters things just in recent weeks because obviously the game got remastered, re-released as well. But nothing's come out yet. The movie's not that far away, so
is it early next year?
Yeah, so it can't be too far away.
I'm sure we'll get a trailer drop.
Probably pretty soon. I think it'll be that,
and
Bill and Ted's will probably get a trailer in the next few months too, because they're both big, resurgence of retro films. Speaking of retro films, though, another thing we've talked about a recent amount is The Matrix.
Yep.
So you sent me this because I hadn't seen this, but Jada Pinkett Smith was announced as coming back, which implies that she's playing the same character.
Yeah,
there was no implication.
It'd be Niobe.
Which is quite interesting because she's the first living cast member, like the one that continued to exist after the end of the movie.
In the universe,
in the universe, that's what I mean. To be returning, so we will see.
Yeah, and it kind of begs the question is whether it's just her or is Ghost and Link, her operator, going to come back as well? Or
that'd be interesting.
It's just going to be her as just like a small cameo. It's like, oh, hey, remember that one cool kick-ass character that wasn't... Carrie-Anne Moss wasn't Trinity.
Yeah,
we're bringing her back for this, slight hi bye scene.
Well, that's the thing. Like, she obviously. This is kind of related, actually. This is kind of funny. This was an unexpected connection I've just realised making here. This is the next thing I was about to talk about. But she obviously only took the role because Will turned down the original Matrix, and then she got the opportunity to do this, and she's like, I'm not, after what happened with the Matrix and you turning down, I'm not passing up on this. And then, ironically, I was about to read that Roland Emmerich said that Independence Day Resurgence shouldn't have been made, but especially not made without Will Smith.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny. So maybe it's one of those things where, like, it'd be like trying to make a Matrix sequel without, this is the reason why, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss are back, because trying to make something without them in it would be Matrix adjacent. Would it be enough to get people interested?
Yeah.
Because definitely didn't work for Independence Day.
No. Well, it'd be like if...
Jeff Goldblum was not enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was good, but he wasn't enough.
Yeah. It'd be like if, say, The Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker and all that, they came out, but they didn't have the original cast in them. Like, they just mentioned that, Luke's off hiding somewhere because of the downfall.
The old classic one where you didn't have the ability to have someone back in it. What's happened? Like, he's been sent away on a mission to that other planet to get the thing that we need.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. Yeah. But,
well, in the case of Independence Day,
do we need this?
In the case of Independence, I mean, the thing with Matrix, obviously, the characters are dead. The ones that Keanu Reeves and Carrie Moss played. So this is interesting on its level. So that already asks you some interesting questions, which in itself is kind of cool because it gets you thinking about wanting to go see the movie already to see what happens. Whereas obviously, like, for example, Independence Day, they just killed off Will Smith. Like, they killed off his character.
I haven't seen it, but isn't there like his son's watching like test pot footage or something of a jet and it blows up or something?
Yeah, and then they mention it and there's like a memorial thing in there.
So he's sort of on screen but off screen.
His character's referenced to, but he's not actually in it.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe a photo because they got his they were allowed to get his likeness. There's a photo in a frame, and that's it. So it's I don't like that. You don't like the movies, but then they thought about the necessity of making that film as well. And I mean, that was part of the bigger thing. So he actually just like having Will in it probably would have made a bit of difference, but they probably shouldn't have made it at all. Well, yeah. What else can you say about that? I mean, it's a gamble. Like, that's just any sequel. It's a gamble. Yeah. Either it'll work out really good or it won't. That's just the simple truth. It's like this. We were talking about Joker, for example, before. Do I expect that if they make a sequel to Joker, will it be as good as the first? Probably not, because it was unexpected, and now you try not to go in with expectations, and we've definitely talked about this before, and I've talked about this with other people. You try not to take any expectations, but when it comes to a sequel, it's really hard not to.
Yeah.
You go in knowing the weight of the film that came previous to it. That's not bad expectations. They're bad expectations is when the film doesn't do anything that you think it should do. You come out afterwards and go, well, it didn't do this, it didn't do that, it didn't do that, and it didn't even connect to that last movie, and blah, blah. Those are not good expectations. But there are good expectations when you go, right, the last movie was amazing, I want something at least consistent to that.
Yeah, on the same playing field, if not better.
Yeah, if not better.
Like Terminator and Terminator 2.
Yeah, perfect example. Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's very much a harder push, and that's why sequels traditionally hadn't been very easy to make.
Yeah. Now, you've got down here, the Netflix has paid for old Nickelodeon characters for new shows.
Yes, did you see any of this?
I didn't, no.
No,
This is news to me and you, the listener.
Because of the success, I think, of Invaderism and Rocko's Modern Life, and obviously with the impendingness of Disney Plus and the lack of children's content. Not that they haven't got a lack of children's content in general, but they're trying to make more, I think, to try and compete, because obviously that's the biggest market here, is that obviously Disney Plus is for children. So they went, right, cool, we had success with these Nickelodeon cartoon characters, they're good enough for kids to watch, but also obviously hooks in some adults who've got nostalgia for old characters. Let's pay for some more and make some more stuff. They haven't said what, they just said that we have. So it could be anything. Could see Rugrats on there.
Yeah, it could be redos of old
Wild Thornberrys, Are Real Monsters.
Who knows?
They could be also talking about saying they funded those other things like Invaderism and Rocko's Modern Life. There could be more Rocko's Modern Life. Who knows? They didn't say what, but they've just said there's payment and it's for a bunch of Nickelodeon stuff. We'll see.
Yeah, watch the space.
I'm going to get you talking about this because I'm still a little bit flabbergasted about this. We talked about last time the number of directors, so I'm just going to leave you.
Yeah, we talked last time about the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland and the however many directors it's gone through now. But Mark Wahlberg has been cast as Sully in the film, and I think we talked about this I think the day after it got released. I think you hadn't seen it yet or something, or I'd brought it up to you. And we would I'd been racking my mind about it the day it came out. I was like, what? And then you were a bit perplexed by it as well.
Well, I was more perplexed because originally he was cast as Drake when he was attached at one point. So now he's gone, in the length of time we've taken to make this movie happen, he's now gotten old enough that they've considered casting him against Tom Holland as the young Nathan Drake as Sully, which I think is not great casting. I thought he wasn't a great choice for Nathan Drake, but he was much more suitable as Nathan Drake than I see him as a Sully type.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this in a much earlier episode. I think we mentioned that Tom Selleck would be an ideal casting for Sully, because he's, as long as he grows that mustache, he'd be fine.
He'd be fine. My issue, I can see where you would not go with it, is that if you're going to have a younger Nathan Drake, he has to be younger, whereas obviously a Nathan Drake at the age that you know him for most of the games would make more sense to have the older Sully. Tom Selleck would be a perfect choice. I think that's the issue. I think then you would have to do a de-aging.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to do, especially now with the de-aging, you could just have Tom Selleck look like he did in Magnum P.I. sort of thing, just with a little bit of salt and pepper in his mustache or something, I'm
going to underline this. Possibly starting filming in February of next year. Possibly. Considering how many directors have fallen through on this project, considering how many delays it's gone through, possibly. Yeah. That's the plan. But yeah, I wasn't enthused to go see this. Uncharted's a game. It's not a. It's another thing that we could spend. We could spend a one-off episode just talking about video game movies. Yeah. I honestly could do it, and I'm not enthused about an Uncharted movie. I think the games are cinematic enough that we don't need a movie. I can understand making movies on games where this hasn't been a cinematic thing, where you're taking the core concept of something, or you mashing movie like a Wreck-It Ralph. It's like a video game movie, but it's not based specifically on anything. There's video game references and characters, but it's an original story. Fine. Mortal Kombat, cool. There wasn't much of it. There was a backstory to the Outworld thing, and so they took that as a core and then basically made that mashed with Enter the Dragon. Awesome. Made sense. But this is pointless. What stories are going to tell us? I would rather see another Uncharted game than I would see a movie, and they're not going to make another one, at least in the format they are. So, I don't know. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg. That's what I can say.
I kind of think that they may want to go along the similar lines to the latest Tomb Raider movie.
Yeah,
but we'll definitely see.
Which was based on the newer games, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So, Robocop Returns is back on with a new director. Speaking of directors and changes,
movies,
yeah. This is the run of things I've got here. You may notice the little trend here.
So, Abe Forsyth.
Yeah, is the director.
Onto this.
I had it. Was it? He did most recent film we talked about that I've talked about actually on my previous episode was Little Monsters, which is a little zombie film with the kids trying to be protected from the zombies. How he's involved, what his connection, nothing was mentioned. He's just been attached. He is working on rewrites with the people that are already writing scripts, so they're not being dumped. He's just going to work on his version and what his ideas are. So it's just an extension, and the same producers multiple executive producers on board, which are the two writers from the original Robocop, who this goes right back to them because the script that they're working off is based off their original sequel script they wrote for Robocop, which was going to be the original Robocop 2. So in a roundabout way, that's all still interconnected. Yeah, it's still on. If it's still kind of keep up that Verhoeven feel idea of like the satire and jokes and ultra violence and all that sort of stuff, it'll probably work. I'd rather see that. So as long as it's not come out looking like Robocop the TV series, or Robocop 3,
or the most recent Robocop movie.
Oh yeah, all that. I tried to blame that out from my memory. Thanks, Ryan.
Sorry.
My actual response was, so what movie was that?
If it helps, I still haven't seen the full thing.
No, that doesn't help at all. It's not making me feel any better. It makes me feel better for you. Like it's great that you haven't seen it. You haven't suffered through it.
Yeah, you suffered. Yeah,
I suffered through that movie. That was terrible.
Poor bastard.
It was a terrible, terrible film, and the less said about it, the better.
All right, we'll move on to the next one, shall we?
So again, another director thing. So we've talked about this before. Tarantino was wanting to do Star Trek, and there was all this thing about
R-rated
Star Trek, exactly, because it's Tarantino. But instead, Paramount has finally decided that they're going to move forward with an actual plan, and it's to make another one in the Calvin timeline, which is the J.J. Abrams timeline. So named after his... Is this his grandfather?
Uncle, I think.
That's what it is, because it's all Calvin Easter eggs and things. So it'll be the Chris Pine, and there was some discussion about trying to get Chris Hemsworth back, and he didn't really want to do it. Yeah. So whether or not that happens, who knows? But it'll be written and directed by Noah Hawley. Hawley has done TV mostly, Fargo and Legion, quite successfully. I think he's done some other film work as well, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. But they seem quite confident with him, so we'll see what happens moving forward. I'm going to let you continue. I'm still trying to get over Robocop, to be honest.
We'll move on to presidential news, or vice presidential news. Dick Cheney has come out and called Christian Bale a dick for the portrait of him in Vice.
So basically...
Now, is it because he played Dick Cheney? Or just because he reckons his version of him was just very dickish?
The story... I don't know if you read this. This came from Christian Bale himself. So the story is he was at I think it was like a school thing to do with like his kids. And one of the parents, the other parents there, just happened to be talking to him and said, "Oh, I'm going to a dinner which Dick Cheney's going to be at tomorrow." And Bale didn't miss a beat. Was kind of like, "Oh yeah, no, that'd be interesting. If you talk to him, say hi to him from me. I'd be interested to know what he thought if he saw the movie." And this woman did go and talk to him and then said, "Oh, interesting. Kid school, Christian Bale, blah blah." Dick Cheney said to him, "Was like, tell Christian Bale he's a dick." And the woman eventually retorted this back to Christian Bale when she next saw him, and he just laughed. He's like, so he was laughing. He was just saying it. No, he was saying it deadly serious. He didn't like you. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Bale in that movie is very impressive. It may not be everyone's favourite movie, but the performances from him and Sam Rockwell are really good. So maybe in some ways it's a bit of a compliment. If you see a movie and it's not painting you in a great light and you think you're the guy that's playing you as a dick for doing it, then he's probably doing a good job, I guess. Maybe. Yeah.
He's making you love to hate him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's good at it. I mean, that's why he was nominated for the award for that.
We mentioned in I think the last episode or the episode before that the new James Bond film has got a title of No Time to Die. Now, that's come out and said that it's going to be the most expensive Bond film at least $250 million.
Yeah.
Holy crap. What are they spending this on? Cars?
Daniel Craig.
With that too, yeah.
Because the money they need to pay him to come back.
That's true.
He funnily enough, he was on Colbert earlier this week, and he specifically when asked him, is this you done as Bond? He's like, yes, this is me done as Bond. That's it. No more Bond. Yeah. So this is
for him.
Anyway. For him, yeah. It's the last Bond movie for him. So, I suspect that's part of the budget. Will Trotting films, blowing the roof up at Shepperton Studios probably didn't help. No. It's only, I have to caveat this, it's only just the most expensive. One of the previous ones was $248 million apparently. But the other caveat was we just said at least $250 million because their final budget hasn't been brought in apparently. So, but that's rumours. So, That's a hefty chunk. But then, and it's really expensive for that when you look at, say, your Avengers movies costing $350 million, but looking at how many cast members are in that movie and the scope and scale of the visual effects and everything, you kind of go, all right, yeah, that makes sense. It's $350 million, a lot of money, don't get us wrong, but it makes sense for the number of people you're having to pay and all this sort of stuff for the scope you're building. James Bond movies tend to be smaller casts. There's scope and usually action sequences and stuff. Like, say what you will about Spectre, but there's some really good stuff in the start of that film. But yeah, that's a big budget. That's a very big budget, I think. Yeah. I think, is this the first one? I can't remember. You might remember this better. It's the first film released not through Sony. I think there's a new licensing agreement for whoever's publishing it. I can't remember.
I can't remember.
I'm guessing they're bankrolling this, and they're like, we're going to throw money at it because we need to prove that it's going to make money for us.
It's going to be worthwhile.
Yeah. So maybe that's it. Yeah, I don't know.
One thing I want to know too is if it's going to be a similar situation in the Judi Dench as Ralph Fiennes. Is he going to carry on as being M into the next movie with a new Bond?
I expect this is what we're going to find out, but we won't know until
that one's announced, if there's one announced.
Yeah, it'll be him and Naomi Harris as Moneypenny. They would be the continue, and maybe Ben Whishaw as Q.
Yeah,
those three could continue on. It'd be very interesting to see, and then they'd almost be able to confirm the concept about the code name of James Bond. Although that doesn't, I say this, but then it doesn't make sense. They would have to build it as the narrative, because in the franchise that exists, James Bond is a person. Like the whole upbringing thing is obviously his family history and all this stuff is established. But that would be the idea, is that they that James Bond moves on and then someone else takes the role of James Bond, and that could be established in this. That would be an interesting way to finish it, actually.
Yeah, like James Bond and 007 are both code
names.
Like,
they become code names.
Like the James Bond is the public persona, but the 007 is the agent persona.
But they both become code names for the agent itself.
Yeah.
So the new agent goes into the role of James Bond, but there was a James Bond in this case first. Yeah. That would be okay. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I
spitballing that on the spot.
It's one of those long-standing rumors that both James Bond and 007 are code names.
Yes, and that's what I mean. This would be establishing this actually isn't a thing, because it's a rumor. Well, it's not a rumor. It's an established kind of idea, but it's never been confirmed or established actually historically. But it still doesn't play very well, because even if you make this establishment now, how does it explain Judi Dench being in two different James Bond franchises already, if this is the guy that had the name James Bond? We have to establish then that the Pierce Brosnan ones that she's in is just her as a different version, like an alternate universe.
Yeah, it's an alternate universe.
Yeah. Anyway, we're way more analytical about this than I ever expected.
Maybe we'll
move on.
We'll move on again. We'll do a whole episode dedicated to Bond films.
I'm going to write a list of lists at the end of the episode. Must do a whole episode on this, must do rant about Disney, blah, blah, blah.
We'll move on to movies that are costing a whole lot of millions of dollars. We'll move on to the Mission Impossible film or films you've got here.
Because they're making two. We know this. They're making two.
Pom Klementieff has joined the cast.
Yeah, so he did... Chris McQuarrie. I was going to say Ralph McQuarrie. Yes, the artist Ralph McQuarrie. No, Christopher McQuarrie did the same thing that they kind of did with the announcement of Hayley Atwell being involved, where they had like a dossier profile and it was her picture and saying welcome to the cast, and put it up on like Instagram and Facebook, all that sort of stuff. So we don't know anything about her character. We don't know if it, as we talked about with Atwell, I don't know if it's one film, multiple films, because it doesn't say. And he specifically says the hashtags like missions 7 and 8. So yeah, we don't know anything other than that. But it was a nice way. Like this, I like these dossiers. They're like IMF. They make them look like a IMF official dossiers and stuff. They're kind of cool. So it's a good way of announcing your cast members, I think. And something, funny enough, James Bond films kind of used to do a little bit. They used to do the press conferences where they bring out the people, and they didn't do that for this one. This is why we didn't have the title. Usually they announce the title when they start the shoot, and they do a press conference, and they would show the title and bring the cast out every time. But they didn't do that for this one for some reason, which I suspect we'll find out when the movie comes out as to why that was.
Yeah, see. On top of this too, I'd like to know if they're going to bring back Jeremy Renner.
Oh yes,
he hasn't been seen since Ghost Protocol.
Yes,
and he was initially supposed to be taken over from Tom Cruise.
That was when Jeremy Renner was going to replace everyone.
Yeah, because he was replacing Matt Damon as well.
Born, yeah. Anyway.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I've written down here, but I've just realised it was a bit of a typo, so you can understand what I'm actually talking about. Paul McCartney came out saying he actually really liked Yesterday, which is the movie, obviously, where the Beatles no longer exist. He thought it was hilarious. He wasn't very convinced of the idea when he was first approached about it, which was kind of funny. I was reading the comments that he actually made. He was like, he goes, I signed off on it, but I quietly thought to myself, it sounds like a stupid idea. But in the end, he actually thought it was hilarious, which is very weird. If you've seen the movie, I'm not going to ruin it because you haven't seen it.
No.
But there's some stuff in there that would be very surreal. Not to him directly. He as a person is referenced by name, obviously, but he doesn't exist as a entity in the film, but there are things in that movie which for him must be very, very weird. So, but he seemed to enjoy it. So I thought that was quite a little weird bit of news. I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I didn't think it was the greatest movie, but it's not Danny Boyle's best. But the idea is really cool. I think the idea about it, and not just in this is obviously framed around the Beatles, but in the movie, and this is, but I can say without spoiling, other things have also vanished. Yeah. Like Coca-Cola doesn't exist, only Pepsi.
Yeah.
So the guy asked for a Coke, and everyone was like, the hell is a Coke? Like, you're on drugs?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, the drink. And they're like, what? And so he goes and like Google searches, and the only thing comes up is Pepsi. It's cola, Pepsi comes up. So there's a whole bunch of those little things in there. And I think the idea behind this and the concept of him playing music is good. I think just there's a lot of bad execution of everything else. On the scheme of also people liking stuff, though, I'm going to move on. Stephen King said that he liked Doctor Sleep because he thinks it redeems the things he disliked about Kubrick's Shining.
Yeah.
That's pretty high praise.
Yeah.
And he's been full of praise about this movie, and unfortunately it hasn't done very well.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because I have seen it, and I will come to it, but I'm also already spoiling a little bit of what I thought about it. But I really enjoyed it, and I think as a sequel to The Shining, it does good justice to it. There's some other things about it I will wait until later to talk about, but it was nice of him to see that. Like, that they had asked him appropriately about, hey, look, we want to do this Doctor Sleep movie, and we want to connect it to the thing that people know more, which is unfortunately Kubrick's version.
Yeah.
Great, you made your own version, Steve, but a lot of people don't know that version.
Yeah.
It's not as iconic. And he kind of just took it in stride and went, okay, yeah, it makes sense. And they did it, and it actually works. So, I wish it was doing better at the box office. I really do. I think it's a better film than people think it's going to be. And I think that's the problem. I think people look at the trailers and go, oh.
Yeah. Do you think when it comes out as a home release, it'll be, for lack of a better term, a sleeper film where it'll actually take off?
Maybe.
People will
it's one of
actually
those
enjoy
things.
it more?
I think people will realise that they missed out on it, but they'll still enjoy it. I think that's the one thing I can say about it. If you don't see it at the cinema, you're not missing a cinema experience. It'd be great seeing it on a big screen, of course, it always is. But if you end up seeing it at home, as long as you're not watching it on a freaking tiny phone, I think you'll be still suited, and I think people will go, oh, actually, this is actually a reasonably good sequel, like years later sequel, but with its own narrative and intent and purpose. It connects to The Shining in a general sense, but it doesn't rely on that connection in order to tell an interesting story. Yeah. It's filler and window and backing and character that is improved by its experience of being there, and I think that's why the director was so inherently important to them about getting that look and feel right. To say more would to spoil stuff, but I think that's the case.
Yeah. Now we've talked previously about Eddie Murphy and wanting to come back and do Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Yeah.
Now he's been really vocal about wanting to do it, and he's had script and talks with producers and other people. Now that's going to be straight to Netflix film.
Well, this is ironic because this is actually, again, an unfortunate connection I've just realised as we've been talking to this and say something like Doctor Sleep or Terminator. Is part of the excuse as to why they thought about this is that there has been a lot of struggle for films going to cinemas that have been years late sequels.
Yeah.
And it's true. And they brought up Doctor Sleep, they brought up Terminator, they brought up a couple other examples of, even in just the last year or two. And they said this is a really hard thing. Whereas obviously Netflix has a built-in audience, and if people want to see it because they're nostalgic, they will. And hopefully maybe the new audience. Plus, obviously Netflix gets the benefit of probably having Paramount put the other Beverly Hills Cop movies on the service, so you can watch all four of them.
Yeah.
So it's probably a clever move. And obviously with the success that Eddie Murphy's had with the Dolomite movie, makes sense as well. So I think it makes, sense.
Yeah, and Netflix have money to to burn effectively, to throw around and give people. So I don't think it's going to be much of a loss to them anyway.
No. I mean, ask you on this question just because it's more interesting that way. If you saw it at the cinema, would you go? If it was out at the cinemas, would you go see it? As opposed to you saw it on Netflix, would you watch it?
See, I think it falls into the same trope as like Bill and Ted or Ghostbusters, is that you'd go and see it at the cinema for that nostalgia feel. But whereas if it was on Netflix, I probably still wouldn't be that bummed about it. Like, I'd probably still watch it as a nostalgic feel anyway.
Okay.
Like, it goes back to what you were saying, is like, it's good to see stuff on a big screen, but, if you can only see it
On something else, on TV,
or tablet or TV or whatever, then so be it.
But I guess that's the difference. I think more the point is, if it was at the cinema first, would you be like, oh, I've got to go see Beverly Hills Cop 4 because, oh my god, I'm a Beverly Hills Cop fanboy, and oh my god, Eddie Murphy, like.
I suppose there probably would be people out there too.
Yeah, I'm sure there would, but like I
probably wouldn't rush out there.
No,
to go and see
and
it.
I think that's the truth of it. I think that's what this year is not. There's obviously hardcore Terminator fans, and there's hardcore Shining fans that probably definitely went and saw those movies, Doctor Sleep as well for that respective reason. But it's an interesting decision, but not one that I can't see has merit. Speaking of decisions with merit attached.
Yep. We'll move on to the trailers section of this, because we've rented enough.
Yeah, and rented for about an hour or so.
Trailers,
so the trailers, we'll quickly run through these. I just really want to quickly go through this, but the one that we probably spend the most time about is the first thing, which is the new and improved Sonic the Hedgehog trailer.
Yep, it looks much better than the first
trailer.
trailer.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you find it was new and improved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked more accurate to what everyone was wanted. Like, granted, initially when I saw the first trailer, like the original trailer, I was like, it looks different, but it still might be okay. But I guess just everyone else online would just had a big fuss about it.
Tonally, to me, it makes it way better. Yeah. Like, I look at that, and they tried to make the hedgehog look too realistic in an environment where they're trying to do all these crazy things with it. I'm like, the more cartoony and outlandish it is, the better I feel it suits the style.
Yeah.
Like, you see what was happening with Jim Carrey as well, like his character and bits of that trailer, and you're like, this is kind of a little bit cartoony already as it is.
Yeah.
So
and it's
why,
Jim Carrey, so he is,
of course.
pretty much.
So why would you make your hedgehog look realistic? And I think that's the thing. The more it's gone to this traditional style of Sonic, the more cartoony and exaggerated it's become, while still maintaining certain levels of realism, like in the way that's the hedgehog spines and all that stuff appear, and the eyes and all that sort of stuff. Like they look real in that sense, but I mean, a CG thing, but their whole caricature shape and concept just plays really well, and I feel like it just feels like a better movie just from watching that trailer. I'm like, I was never super keen to go see it, but if someone showed me those two trailers at the same time and said, which one of these would you see more, I would definitely pick the new one.
Yeah.
Because I would be like, that tonally looks right. Like, why is that hedgehog thing?
Yeah.
That's it. Like, it's a thing. Like, that looks like a cartoon hedgehog. That looks like a weird alien.
Yeah.
Which, ironically, it is.
Yeah, he is. He's just an alien who happens to look like a hedgehog.
Yeah.
But doesn't. But still look like a hedgehog.
Yeah, and it clearly isn't a hedgehog because he goes fast. But, whatever.
Yeah, I think if I were to go see it at the cinema, I'd probably just go see it for the Jim Carrey parts, because out of those trailers, like, they seem to be the best bits for me. Whether they're kept in or not remains to be seen as well.
I think if I was to go see it, it's either to go see if it's good or if it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
After all this, like, that's the thing. Like, after all this, just because you improve the CG does not make it a better movie. It improves the quality of a movie, but it doesn't necessarily change the story or the plot or the pacing or the acting or anything like that, because at the end of the day, those things are all going to be the same no matter what the hedgehog looked like.
Yeah, and there was memes and jokes come out like a couple of days afterwards. It's like, shit, they've put all this effort into fixing it for us. Now we have to go and see it
for justifying.
So if they, if
I did see that.
If no one goes and sees it, the studio's going to go, oh, shit, we just wasted many more months fixing it and a shitload more money for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll wait and see the reception on that, I suppose.
Yeah, no, true. Very, very, very true. We'll quickly go through the rest of them. So there was a SpongeBob trailer for another CG SpongeBob movie called
Sponge on the Run.
Sponge on the Run, that's the one. The most interesting thing that got the internet buzz in the year of Keanu was Keanu Reeves appearing as Tumbleweed, called Sage because he gives sage advice.
Yeah.
Now, when I first heard this, I didn't see the trailer. I just saw it. I was like, Keanu Reeves. So I'm expecting like some animated tumbleweed that's voiced by Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And then, no, it's not. It's a tumbleweed with Keanu Reeves' floating head.
Just sort of in the middle of it.
In the middle of it. And I'm like, well, that makes sense also in the sense of these movies because they did this stuff with like David Hasselhoff before. So I'm like, okay, still freaking weird. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, see, because when I first saw this announced, I kind of didn't pay much attention to it, and then I think I'd read something like further down my timeline that Keanu Reeves Sage. I was like, wait, what? I just thought, it might have been like a straight to Netflix or straight to DVD SpongeBob movie or something, so I didn't really pay much attention to it until that popped up.
Considering the Nickelodeon agreement that we talked about earlier
yeah.
as well, there's always that possibility, and it'll probably turn up on Netflix now because of that. But yeah, it looks like an animated SpongeBob movie, which, to be quite honest, I liked the traditional hand-drawn one that they did in 2004, 2005, whenever it was.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. I actually really liked it, but I didn't like the other one they did in CG. So yeah, I don't know. Be interested. But there's that thing having Keanu Reeves in there. Does that make people more interested to see it? Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see what other stuff.
See how funny Keanu can be in a kids movie.
Well, he was good in Toy Story, and they gave him a lot of freedom in that role. He really enjoyed it. I remember watching interviews with him. So he's obviously, it's just continuing his year of media dominance.
Yeah.
It's still ongoing. We've still got more months of the Keanu-sance, as everyone's calling it, to go, because we've obviously got Cyberpunk's coming out March next year, and then we've got Bill and Ted also, I think it's August, so yeah, interesting. Nostalgia that's perhaps not as good, and I'll let you talk about this because you had much more to say about this than I did.
Yeah, so there was a Scoob trailer dropped as well, it seems to be like a origin of Scooby-Doo. I guess it looks like they're kind of playing off a pup named Scooby-Doo cartoon series from, was it the late 90s, I think? Early 2000s, I think?
Well, it was earlier than that. I think I remember watching it when I was a kid.
I could be wrong, but
so
I think
90s.
Yeah, I think that's what they're playing on, is that it's an origin story of how Shaggy got Scooby and how he got named. And going by the trailer, he got named from a box of Scooby snacks because I think, was he getting chased by police or something?
Yeah, and he pretends that he's his dog. Yeah,
yeah.
Like,
So he pretends it's his
what's
dog,
his name?
So he looks at the Scooby snacks and goes, Scooby,
Dooby,
Doo. And then, like, to me, I was kind of like, yeah, okay, but I always sort of had the belief that the Scooby snacks were kind of named after Scooby-Doo for the reason that, I guess, they'd go around and solve all these mysteries, so they'd become sort of a pop culture.
I've thought more about you saying this. Now, I didn't agree with this, and I've thought about why I didn't agree with this. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It doesn't make any sense to me, because then what did he call them before the Scooby snacks? Like, sorry, no, this is the thing. Sorry, it was meaning the other way around. If, like, Scooby snacks was a thing, and that's why he's called Scoob. It makes sense in a sense, but like to call him Scooby snacks because he eats them. Why? What were the Scooby snacks called beforehand, and why were they important? This is a weirder story to tell.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like a company, does a company turn up and say, "We've got this contract for $500, and if you give us your name because you're such an amazing dog," like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Or they're an amazing detective agent. Well, not everyone knows about the detectives because we've established this. Because otherwise, everyone would be always all over the fact that when they turn up, I've got to stop my nefarious schemes because like Mystery Inc. has arrived.
Yeah.
Like they're not that famous. So therefore, why would the snacks again be named after a not so famous dog in a mystery? Like, why is the dog the most famous person from the Mystery Inc.? Like, it's a dog. Like, yeah, we make dog snacks. I get that, but like, the dog is just a member of it's a pet that belongs to a bunch of kids that solve mysteries. Does the dog solve mysteries? General public doesn't probably think so. No. I just think like
the dog's just there to.
It's a dog.
Eat,
like
yeah.
I think this opens a can of worms. But then I'm also going back and thinking about all this and going, I'm really over analyzing this.
Yeah.
Like it's a freaking children's cartoon.
Yeah.
Like
I just think because we're so attuned to something as kids growing up watching it, we look at it as adults now and we just overanalyze it.
Yeah.
And we just need to look at it on face value as it's a kids' movie, enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. The easier path to me is that you would name a dog after an existing snack. That to me makes very much fast sense, especially when you establish a character. But then the doobie-doo bit doesn't make any sense either. So, whatever. My bigger thing is I look at it and I just go, like, it doesn't look appealing. It doesn't. But maybe it's not for me. It's for kids. So, like, whatever. I just enjoyed the fact you got very upset about this. Like you like generally you didn't get that upset, but it was still like it's kind of annoying. I always just assumed the dog came first, the snacks came second.
Yeah. I don't know, that's just my belief. But we'll move on.
Yeah. New trailer for Jumanji, which also got some screenings and has had very positive comments. The trailer looks good. I'm actually going to go see it, I think, because
I still need to see the previous one as well. I still haven't seen that in its entirety. Yeah, I know. Ding, man, jeepers. All right, we're going to definitely sit down and watch that. Like, I've seen the original Robin Williams.
No, this is the thing. It has a nice bit of reverence towards the idea of the Robin Williams thing, which you see when you watch it. But it's its own thing.
Yeah.
But it's its own thing for a good reason. Like the core concept of like a game and characters, like the world coming in, has been flipped on its head, and I like that. I thought this, if you're going to continue the idea and honor it, it worked really well. Because I remember beforehand, I was like, and you were probably the same, going, "Oh, really? Another Jumanji movie? And with this cast, like, what are you doing, Dwayne? Like, you're better than this." Like,
yeah. Well, I definitely think in this trailer too, it's definitely
Kevin Hart. You can have it as much as you want.
Yeah.
Sorry,
from what I've seen of this trailer, Dwayne Johnson is more Danny DeVito-like, and Kevin Hart is more
Danny Glover.
Thank you, like as well. So they're definitely playing up that. They're the older characters.
The review, the early reviews, they're not like official ones, but people were like seeing screens and allowed to say a little bit, have said that Kevin Hart's Danny Glover is awesome. Oh, wow. They said it's really good and they're like believable, which is the hardest bit of like selling that. So like if you can sell the two of them, those two pretending to be those two people, and it looks like it's good. Like even in the trailers, it's pretty funny. Yeah, and I really liked that first one. I really did not expect to enjoy that. And then it obviously made a lot of money, and everyone went, it's actually a really good movie. And it actually is. Like, it really is. And, we will sit down and watch that.
Yeah.
We will definitely sit down and watch that, because I think...
we'll do that before the next episode.
Yeah, next one, because I think you definitely deserve to enjoy that movie. It was really good. Speaking of other sequels, Bad Boys for Life, another trailer dropped. Very Bay-esque.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Like, I know that people go on Bay, explosions, Bay, blah, blah.
Blows stuff up.
But if you're going to make a sequel to two Bay films and he's not involved, you want it to tonally fit. I feel from the trailers at various, and this could be to do with slick trailer editing, but even visually, like, it feels like it could be Bay film, a Bay film, and that's what you want. People have pointed out, and there's plenty of online essays about it, that imitating Bay's style of filmmaking is actually a lot harder than people give him credit for.
You think it's just action and blow stuff up.
But it's actually a very unique style to his camera movements, his angles, the way he cuts, and to get those things right is not easy, as people joke about. And yet that trailer looks, if someone told me Michael Bay was directing that movie, I probably wouldn't have even blinked an eyelid at it.
Yeah.
It looks tonally right. So I don't know. I'm thinking this is one of those movies that we were talking about before, which may not do very well. It's one of those movies that people go, I like Bad Boys, but do I like Bad Boys enough to go see another one at the movies?
Yeah, I'll just wait for it to come out on
I'll just
DVD
wait for it to come on DVD or Netflix or whatever. I'm not really fast. So I suspect when it comes out next year, it will not be a massive success. But I could be wrong. All of a sudden, there could be something really good about it and word of mouth gets out. You never know with these things. Pixar dropped a trailer for Soul, which is their other movie for next year. The first one obviously being Onward. Soul looks like it's a bit more, I think if you wanted to connect it, it's a bit more like Inside Out.
Yep.
It looks like it connects to do with the person's soul and their existence on life, and it might be one of those deep and meaningful Pixar films. Did you see the trailer at all?
I didn't know. This is news to me as well.
Okay, yeah. You should definitely watch it. It's one of those intriguing trailers which it seems to give away somewhat a lot, but not a lot. It could be very interesting where it goes. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking the trailer out if you haven't. Obviously, Ryan hasn't, so he should.
Ding.
That's. I'm not going to ding you on
trailers.
trailers.
It's a half ding.
It's a half.
It's a half ding because it's the trailer.
It's a half ding. The trailers are.
It's a duh.
It's not even a ding because it's not even a half ding because the trailers are only like 2 to 2.5 minutes long. So really, it's like it's like a. It's like barely a thing. Like it's compared to like a 90-minute runtime.
Yeah.
2 minutes is nothing. There was a new trailer for Spies in Disguise, which I have to admit was probably the most impressive trailer for the movie. Previously, I'm just like Will Smith, spy, turned to a pigeon, eye roll. Another voice, Tom Holland doing the voice of the nerdy science kid that does creates the potion. But the trailer looks fun. Like if it's like other Blue Sky stuff that's been enjoyably exciting, then it'll be fine. Kids will enjoy it. I think it'll be entertaining enough. So yeah, it comes out I think around Christmas, Boxing Day, something like that. Maybe a little bit later here. I'm not sure. So yeah, definitely holiday movie here in New Zealand anyway. You didn't see that trailer either, I'm guessing? The most recent one?
I didn't, but I do know of the movie coming out.
Yeah. And there was a trailer for The Invisible Man, which has been reframed as a horror movie, like a revengey horror movie, which is quite interesting, and I really liked the look of it. It's being done by Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Did you see this trailer?
I did, yes.
See the trailer.
That's because it's a Lee Winnell film who
yes.
wrote and
co-wrote and Saw, yeah. Which is a very interesting take. So, yeah, abusive partner somehow manages to create the ability to make himself invisible, fakes his death, and then puts in this thing that the person can get their spousal inheritance as long as they prove that they're not mentally insane, basically, and then terrorizes them to basically make them
look insane.
They look insane. That's an interesting twist on that. It's a little... There's shades of Hollow Man. Have you seen Hollow Man?
Mm-hmm.
There's shades of that in there, but it's a different take on it still. Yeah. Hollow Man's more of a person goes crazy kind of concept with it because it's science.
Yeah, and I think that in itself is a kind of version of the original Invisible Man.
Yes,
from
definitely.
Was it the 30s?
30s,
or 40s? Yeah.
So they've kind of mashed these ideas together, but I think the style is very unique and very much Blumhouse and very much Wayne. Sorry, not Wayne. No,
Whalen.
Lee
Winnell, yeah.
Wow. But also Wayne, because that was his co-writer on Saw as well, and he does these sorts of things with movies as well. So yeah, I'm intrigued enough that I will keep an eye out for another trailer and probably will see it. Movies maybe, but yeah. The last trailer, very briefly, because it is a very brief trailer, is Ip Man 4. I had no idea they were making another Ip Man. All of a sudden, this trailer just appeared. I can't remember what I was looking at. I was looking at something, and all of a sudden I was like... And at first I was like, oh, this is just footage from the first movie, but then they blended it with some new footage. I don't think we need another Ip Man film. Like, Donnie Yen, amazing, don't get me wrong. Really like those movies. But the story kind of been told, I think. So I'm very interested to see where this will go. Like, every time the movie's finished, the first three, they would have these title cards to explain what happened to him, the actual guy, after the events of the movie. And these sequels will then portray some of that. So I think, pretty sure the third one was pretty, not final, but it was kind of explaining like how he lived out the rest of his life kind of thing. So I'd be very interested to see what this does. But very brief trailer, but at least it's interesting to know it's coming. And I will watch it because I enjoyed the first three so much that I'm a sucker for this sort of thing. So
definitely keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we should move on to the reviews.
Yep. I think we should. We've rounded
enough about
trailers.
News and trailers.
News. So we both went and saw Terminator Dark Fate. And my God, the first 10 minutes?
Oh, not even that.
What the hell?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know about you, but I was like, sort of subconsciously looking at myself going, what the hell just happened?
Well, if you remember correctly, I predicted this.
Yeah.
I predicted this clear as anything. And I'm kind of shocked that I managed to predict it. But then someone said to me later on, well, it's pretty telegraphed. Like they I don't know if they were saying this because they didn't, I don't know if they predicted it beforehand, but they were like, they explained why it would seem telegraphed. And I was like, yeah, but it could have been for a variety of reasons. But, it seemed... And on top of it, I did not expect that in the first 5 minutes of the film. I definitely didn't expect that. I expected a little bit more of something happening beforehand. So that was pretty shocking. Which we're talking vague spoilers. But it's not particularly unobvious if you've A, listened to us before, or B, have seen stuff on the internet. But as the film overall, like, what did you think? Like,
I really enjoyed it. It did, to me, it definitely had aspects of... At least up to Terminator 3, where there's like the truck comes through the concrete wall, reminded me of the crane from Terminator 3, and like it reminded me more of Terminator 1 and 2, with I suppose a smattering of other ones in there as well, but ignoring that whole
Yeah.
3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
Yeah, ignoring those, which was kind of good, and it just reimagined the whole universe.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Like the idea of having these little, like obviously having, I mean, the endoskeleton mixed with the other Terminator is very much reminiscent of Terminator 3, but they've taken that idea of like, it's like almost like nanoparticles.
Yeah.
And they separate out and operate as two independent Terminators. Arnie was amazing in this too.
Yeah.
Like he was really good. Linda Hamilton was absolutely amazing. Like I think the core part of it is that it really is important. Is that the Terminator franchise? Everyone goes, "Oh, it's Arnie's franchise." Realistically, it wasn't. It kind of was, but it was more Linda Hamilton's franchise.
Yeah.
Like when you realize it, like her coming back had way more impact than Arnie did. But that may also be diminishing. I don't want to say returns because it's not the right term, but you know what I mean. From the fact that Arnie's been in every Terminator film, even the one Salvation, he wasn't officially in, but they used his face.
Likeness of that time period.
They scanned. They had a casting from '84 when they did the Terminator of his face, so they used that, scanned that into a computer, and then used it to model his face accurately, which is awesome. But yeah, it kind of means it diminishes his impact if he'd gone away and come back. And I think that's what obviously the impact of Linda Hamilton in this was, that she'd been gone for so long. You kind of didn't realise how important she actually was to the franchise. There's some nice little twists and turns.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that I've definitely seen some people complain about. There was the particular line about the womb of the future. It did not go down well with some people.
No.
As you can imagine on the internet. The internet is being the internet this
these days. Yeah.
And also the border crossing thing. That also had that's a little too on the nose. Got to build a wall.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Like the more time I've had separated from it, the more I've gone, yeah, there's some flaws in it and stuff, but the action's good, and I definitely agree it's more in tone with 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to talk about your thoughts on the Joker, because I managed to talk about this the last episode.
Yeah.
And you've now since
seen it, yeah.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. I'm trying, obviously, still avoid spoilers, but as best you can. But we've kind of alluded to the fact that obviously there's certain interpretations and vague elements. Yeah,
because I think I came home and I was still processing it, and I think you'd just come home from work and you asked me what I thought of it, and I sort of gave you my quick opinion of it. And then
I knew that I couldn't get much out of it because I was the same way coming home from it. I had to have time to think about it. So I just wanted to know what your initial impression was, and I knew that I'd come back to this and we'd talk, and you'd actually have some finalised thoughts. Yeah, and I kind of sat on like what you'd told me is that one of our flatmates had, I think, told you was about like all the clocks in the movie being the same time and what in the movie specifically happened, because it is one of those movies that makes you think, oh, hang on, what did happen? And the way you interpret it.
And it's the way you interpret it. And like I think like till this day, like a couple of weeks later after seeing it, I'm still like, I still can't quite figure out what is real and what actually happened in it or not, and like both Joaquin Phoenix and Tim Miller, not Tim Miller, the director.
Todd Phillips.
Thank you. Sorry, wrong one.
That's Deadpool, Terminator.
Yeah, they've both come out and said that they've got their own takes of what they think is the actual story, but they haven't been very vocal about it. They've sort of been very vague in their responses.
There's only one thing that they said, which is the thing to do with Zazie Beetz' character, the neighbour.
Yeah.
That people were in question what happened, but it was not a negative outcome because he wasn't going to do anything bad.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing they've said. Is don't take that the wrong way. He left because he figured out the truth. So that's the only bit they've said. That's set in stone because that's how we perceived it because of the way he is later on with the guy the people that he worked with.
Yeah.
For example, they use that as an example of like only people that he felt wronged by.
Yeah.
But that has its own questions. Was he? Who told the truth? Who didn't tell the truth? Did he ask for the gun? Did he not ask for the gun? What is true there? Like those are very interesting things.
Yeah. And yeah, it's definitely one of those things where I think you probably need to see it multiple times, and even then, I don't even know if that's going to be enough for you to actually realise what's happened and what's going on.
I think it's one of those films like I will probably definitely watch again, but it's not going to be a comfortable watch a second time round. I think it's just such a heavy. There is a heavy film there, and for some people they wouldn't even like to. And I know this actually, flatmates again, who didn't love the tone of it the first time around. So that would be a hard ask for anyone to watch it again. And even I enjoyed the film, but I will have to think mentally about when I sit down to watch that again to actually, like, I'll be looking for those details, I'll be looking at that stuff, but just, again, it's a journey, and definitely a journey worth taking.
Yeah.
But maybe not multiple times very soon together.
No. Probably as soon as it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, and then, maybe a little while down the track, like a year or so.
Definitely. All right. I've got 3 films I'm not going to spend too much time talking about. But I will just quickly go over. I'll go back to Doctor Sleep first, because I think it makes most sense.
Relevant. Yep.
Just because we talked about it. As I said, Doctor Sleep, very solid sequel to The Shining, but to call it a sequel is kind of a misnomer in that it just continues the story of Danny Torrance and the journey that he ends on, and it has somewhat connection, obviously, to The Shining, in the sense of the actual thing, The Shine, more so than the actual Shining. Although it doesn't say, obviously, if you've seen the trailers, that the Overlook Hotel is involved, and there's some connections. But that, again, is more about window dressing and plot elements for the current events, rather than being uberly reliant on imitating stuff. One of the most talked about things about the film, though, is the idea that they obviously they show events just after the original Shining, and so these days, quite often, the simple answer is to go take cake, and this is something of Terminator, for example, just for your knowledge, just for you personally, right?
Yep.
But it's like taking an actor and then transporting someone else's face on there so that you have the look of the original actor. In this case, they did the old school Hollywood system, which is we just cast someone who looks close. And it's actually really good. I forgot how refreshing it is to get someone and you go, right, it's not the same person, because you can't. Physically, the time difference, you just can't do that. So I'll just get someone who invokes the look, the sound, the style, and clothe them correctly, and make up and hair them correctly, and make them look like the person, and that's good enough. Yeah. So they do that with several people in this.
Oh, wow.
And it's really impressive, and I really enjoyed it. It was a nice, refreshing change of old school style to just cast someone who has a similarity. So that was kind of nice in its own way too. I kind of liked that. And it didn't take me out of the movie, which was kind of nice. It wasn't until later on I was thinking more about it. I was like, yeah, you know what? I was quite comfortable with that. But as a movie, yeah, really enjoyable, and I do recommend it. But again, yeah, it hasn't done well, and there was some idea about doing not a direct sequel, because again, this is the thing, but like a secondary adjacent story to this. Probably not going to happen now. But I do recommend it, and people probably won't go see the movies, that's fine, but definitely do watch it, because I think you enjoy it, especially if you're a fan of Shining, the original Shining. I went to Jojo Rabbit. Again, I want to talk about it briefly. Taika's film is going to be very diversive. I've talked to people who are just like, I can't understand making jokes about the Holocaust, basically, and World War II. But that's kind of, to me, the point. The point is satire gets conversation. And Taika said this himself. He said, I want people to talk about it. We shouldn't be seeing people acting like Nazis in this stage. We can turn around and look at history and go, look, this is what happened. People are forgetting this. Yeah. We are distancing ourselves that we're doomed to repeat the same problems by allowing indifference to rear its ugly head, essentially. And as I said to a couple of people, and I think I've said this to you as well, try convincing kids, especially, like not kids but like teenagers, to watch a documentary on the Holocaust. Yeah. Do you think that would hurt? Probably not. Get them to watch a comedy where Taika Waititi plays a goofy Hitler, but there's actually emotional stakes and some history in there. Yeah, they'll do that.
Yeah, they'll probably do it. Yeah.
And I think that's the point. Like people can be upset about it, I'm sure, and there's justification for it, but that's not the point. The point is to not forget these things. And sometimes you draw comedy to draw light to these things. And that's how comedy sometimes works, and this is definitely the point of this movie. If you go in thinking the trailer showed this goofy Hitler thing, yeah, of course, those scenes are in the movie. There's nothing not in the trailer that isn't, but that's actually not the crux of it. There's actually, ironically, it's one of those trailers where you see most of the movies. Most of what's in the trailer is most of the scenes of him playing Hitler. You actually see most of them in the trailer. There's a lot more to that movie than is in the trailers, and it's a lot better, I think, than that portrays. And not in a bad way. They haven't marketed it wrong, because it's definitely, as I said, part of the film, and it's definitely part of the character. But it's really about, there's a line in the trailer as well, which is the girl's like, you're not a Nazi, Jojo. You're just a boy who wants to be part of a club. And it's true. That's totally what the whole crux of the story is. He wants to be part of a group and wants to be... He becomes a fascist, essentially, because he wants to fit in and be the best he can as a German citizen. And that's really it. And it's the erosion of that is the core of that movie. On top of it as well, obviously, Scarlett Johansson's amazing in that movie. Her accent's not amazing, but the acting is great. And honestly, there's a couple of scenes in there I was like, wow, that's some heavy lifting, like just emotionally. And yeah, all around clever, funny, and as people have also pointed out, like we've been making fun of Nazis and Hitler since World War II.
Yeah.
Like, Hitler was still alive, that we're making jokes because that was
almost 100 years ago now.
It's part of that propaganda, and so people need to remember this as well in context, that you to point out jokes is to point out light on things when it becomes uncomfortable to talk about them.
Yeah.
Trying to get people to talk about atrocities and the horrificness of World War II is hard because people don't want to confront difficult problems.
Yeah.
And difficult conversations, and this through comedy is one of the ways to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's really the best thing I can say about the movie, is that it's worth seeing because it is clever and witty and funny, but it's also got a purpose.
Yeah. Just as a little side note there, my parents went and saw this too a few weeks ago, and they both said they really enjoyed it. So
No, I'm glad.
I suppose it gets a thumbs up from them.
Yeah.
So.
I if it's still screening, I recommend you seeing it. I recommend anyone seeing it, and I'm not saying that just because of Taika, because he's good and it's fine. Directorial wise, it's across the board fine. There's nothing spectacularly amazing about the visuals. There's nothing spectacular about the style as a director. But that's kind of the point. It's not as, you know how you do. There's a couple of like his little flourishes. You know, like in World of People, he does the 360 degree. He does that again in this. But there's no real massive flourishes to his directorial style. But that's again not the point. It's more about the heavy lifting the actors do in this. And if anything, if I want to say jokingly, it's almost like more like his first ever film, which is a very much character piece. Not that they all haven't been character pieces, but that's just so much more reliant on the heavy lifting of just scenes shot with like, here's a wide, here's some close-ups, here's some dialogue back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's what they're talking about that's much more important than how it's shot. And that's not to put down the craft of the film. It's a good film, well made, but it's not as important as what it's trying to say. The last thing I'm going to talk about, which is a sad little thing to talk about, unfortunately. Both of us have been really keen to see this because we really thought the trailer looked really good. The Dead Don't Die, Jim Jarmusch's zombie movie. I went and saw it. And the sad thing I have to report is it wasn't very good.
Disappointing.
The cast is really game, and the idea of them being very droll is very good, but it just doesn't have heft to the comedy. You could be droll and funny, and yet the drollness here is kind of just never really plays. There's the same sort of thing you see about consumerism that you would see out of a Romero film, and I don't know if it's done with a sense of irony or pointedness. Like the zombies come back and they do the old 80s brains thing, but instead of saying brains, they do the thing which is the consumer thing. So if you remember, I don't know if you've seen the original Dawn of the Dead, but the original Dawn of the Dead, the whole idea is that they come back to the zombies come to them all because it's a little bit of memory that they come back to a place that they liked.
Yeah.
So he plays on this a little bit and has them doing stuff that they want. So but they do the brains thing where they talk it out loud. So like someone's on their phone, like zombies like staring at their phone, going Wi-Fi, and kids, zombie kids, candy, like pouring at candy on her. And I'm like, I see where this should be funny, but because of they're pointedly towards other things that are already there, I'm like, it's not that funny. The bits that got me to laugh the most, there's some meta moments. Two of them, I'm going to spoil them because I need to talk about this because people probably aren't going to see this movie now. If Brendan is listening to this, though, he can skip the next 30 seconds because he'll probably want to see this. Although I know I've told him one of these already. The opening theme song, there's a theme song written for the movie and it's called The Dead Don't Die. And there's a scene very early on where the two of them are in the car together. So Bill Murray and Adam Driver, and they're the cops in the town. It's Cliff and, what's Adam Driver's character's name? Doesn't matter. But they're listening to the radio, they're flicking the radio, and the song comes on and they're both kind of enjoying it, and then Bill Murray's character's like, this is really familiar, why do I know this? And he's like, it's The Dead Don't Die, it's sung by whoever the guy is, and he's no, that's not it, I just really familiar. And then Andrew pauses, thinks about it for a second, it's because it's the theme song. And I was like, okay, this is where we're going, this is right at the start of the movie, this is where we're going. So the one that actually made me laugh legitimately out loud was later on in the movie. Andrew's character has a smart car, little tiny thing that's way too big for it, which is part of a visual gag, which is kind of good. And Tilda Swinton's character asks him for the keys to the car so that she can use it, and he hands over the keys, and on the keys is a key ring of the Star Destroyer from Star Wars, and she looks at it and goes, Star Wars, that's a really good space fantasy. I like it. And he's like, yeah, I know, it's real good.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. But, that's it. Like, that was literally the biggest laugh it got out of me the entire movie. There's a couple of unexpected surprises. There was a few little really funny bits. The way they used some of the cameos for some of you've seen the trailers of the actors and stuff were kind of unexpected. But it's really hard to recommend. Like, if you saw it, it was on your Netflix or whatever, and you didn't care about it, or you're a really big zombie fan, I would definitely recommend. But don't go in expecting Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead or any zombie comedies. It's not that film. It's a zombie movie with some comedic things, a little bit of drama, a little bit of social commentary, and it never quite gets any of them quite well.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to know about it was there many a mention of ghouls?
Yeah, the Ghouls thing comes up a couple of times, but the main thing is the one that was in the trailer, and it is thankfully the one in the trailer. It's not that there was an alternate take. There's no guys like some cookies.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to tell that story another time.
Yeah.
But that's the shit in a nutshell. So yeah.
Okay. Should we move on to the films, but badly?
Yeah, so we should move on to the films, but badly, and go ahead and play another round.
Ooh.
Always got one.
Potentially do this. I just got to think of this. Okay. So, this movie revolves around royalty coming back.
It's not coming to America.
No.
Are we talking in literal terms? Yeah, you probably are.
Kind of. I'll give you that.
It's not,
10 seconds.
Not Return of the King, is it?
It is. It's Return of the King. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Yeah, okay. that is perfectly...
I couldn't really think of much else to go with that.
Yeah, no, that's
with
accurate.
Sort of dropping
that's
it in.
Accurate. That's a good bad description. I'll give you that one.
I mean, I couldn't have exactly said, a group of people finally returns lost jewellery. I couldn't have done that as well.
Okay. All right. In this movie, our main character overcomes anger and family issues to save the day.
Anger and family issues to save the day. First thing that comes to mind would be anger management, but there's not many family issues in that.
Nope.
Family and anger issues to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
Overcomes it. The Incredible Hulk, perhaps?
Nope.
No. No, not
3,
coming to mind.
2, 1. No.
What do we got?
You're going to hate me for this one.
It's alright.
The answer is Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
Oh. Wow. Wow, if you got that, well done to you. Wow.
Do you think it's a suitable bad description?
Yes, that's wow. I wouldn't say it's a bad description. That's a good way to stump someone.
That was like the one that you gave me that was like similar. I was like, wow, that's like kind of accurate, but not accurate at the same time. Yeah, I had to think about that for quite a while.
Okay, this might work. Okay, one of the main characters steals water to give to the thirsty villagers.
Oh, it's not Mad Max Fury Road.
God damn it.
I was like, that's a big commodity right there, like water. As soon as you said that, I was like, that's...
See, I was going to omit the desert.
Yeah.
Because I thought that'd be too on the nose.
Yeah. It's kind of the ending outcome. That again, it was a good bad description, but it's not many.
Easy.
Yeah, there's not too many movies where I would think like water. It would be like me saying something the same thing about air, and you'd be like, oh, it's Spaceballs because you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Good attempts. I'll give you points for kudos. All right. An annoying character causes all of and continues to get involved in everyone else's adventures. Starting time.
There we go. Would it be Star Wars, Phantom Menace?
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking around the right lines.
Character gets involved in what causes everyone else's problems?
Yeah, causes everyone else's... Causes the events surrounding everyone else, but also continues to get involved when they could just piss off. Well, people would like them to piss off. I'll give you extra time for that too.
I really can't think of anything other than Star Wars.
You had the right. You were on the right. Like I thought that was going to be the first thing you said. No, you think you're on the right path. And when you say it, you're going to be like, yeah, okay, I get what you mean. All right, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds.
No, I'm
5,
completely drawing a blank.
4, 3, 2, 1.
No, what do we got? I'm going to hate
The
myself.
answer is Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Of course. Of course.
Jack Sparrow.
Okay. The main character spends a majority of the film trying to fall in love with his love interest again and again.
50 First Dates?
No.
Ooh.
See, I was hoping you'd get that off.
Yeah,
straight away.
that's the most obvious one, but I thought that was a bit too obvious.
I just hope this is the right description, because I have seen this, but it's been a while.
Again and again. Oh, there's something else tangibly on the tip of my, like, not the tip of my tongue, but in my head. I know there's something else that I should be thinking about, and I can't think of the bloody movie.
5 seconds.
It's like
2,
over time span.
1.
Yeah.
It was. I think this stumped you, and it's a point for me. Eternal Sunshine
Sunshine
of
of the Spotless Mind. Yeah, it's. Yeah. All of a sudden I'm thinking of time and I'm thinking of space, but that's more, yeah. They just inevitably end up back together.
Yeah.
That's there was a fate. Yeah. That's good. I enjoyed it. Well done. Alright. I got something.
Go on.
Okay. Alright. In this movie, the main character slacks off from his responsibilities that were given to him. Hang on, let me think about this bit actually. Slacks off from his responsibilities that were part of his birthright.
Part of his birthright.
Yeah.
See, when you said slack off, Office Space initially came to mind. But it's a birthright. It kind of makes me want to say it's something medieval or something, because this normally deals with like birthrights.
10 seconds.
Something like King Arthur or something?
Nope. 3, 2.
No, nothing's coming to mind. It has to be something medieval, doesn't it? Surely. Or not? No.
The
Don't
answer,
go by the laugh. It's not.
the answer is The Lion King.
Wow.
That was ironic,
That was
wasn't
really
it?
good.
Yeah. It was quite ironic, though, I thought.
He just suppose he does slack off.
He does. He disappears. He runs off, and then his birthright is to take over the king. Instead of that, he thinks he's killed he was involved in killing his father, and he just slacks off and decides that he'd rather have a nice, relaxing life, not being the son of a king, or being a king.
Wow, that was a really good description.
Yeah.
Wow, well, I think the score on that is 5-1.
What? Was it 5-12? Was 2?
Yeah, because you got 2 of
I
mine.
got 2
and
and
stumped me with all 3 of yours.
Wow.
So not
Again.
a complete shutout.
Again, where the points don't matter. So
No, just like Whose Line.
Whose Line? Yeah. But yeah, some good options there. Right?
Yeah.
I was impressed. I was very impressed.
I think that's pretty much it for this episode.
Yes,
Thank
I
you for
Stick
listening.
around
If you stuck around for this long one.
Yes, a very long one. We've had a lot of news and it's been slightly delayed, so we appreciate you listening. As always, like, comment, subscribe, pass on,
Share, throw it around.
talk to other people about it.
Yeah. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your church pastor. Bring it up in Sunday Mass. I don't know. Probably not.
They might like movies, but
Yeah.
if they're listening to it, we excuse the swearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's all right. That's the way things are. Thanks, Ryan.
That's all right.
Until next time, this is Rob.
This is Ryan.
And catch you next time.
So.